that one out. Damn, I thought we were already recorded. Please forgive me.
Oh, here we go. I didn't know you wanted it, so...
You're damn right I wanted it. That's why, I screwed up for 8 minutes. But anyhow, this is the point that... What? Oh, you got to get the other one live, too. So as soon as you get the other live,
I was waiting to be queued in over here. Hang on a second.
Tonight is the College National Football Championship game.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have to troubleshoot this. I'm going to have to restream the show tomorrow. Have a good show.
All right, so something's coming up. Let me go to my YouTube and look at that, why it's doing that.
It's a firewall issue on my end that I have yet to troubleshoot.
Oh, okay, all right, got you, okay.
So
but anyhow, go ahead, Dave.
No, I didn't say anything. I'm just waiting on you guys to get through with your conversation.
Okay, well, we got this. We're live right now. Anyhow, the point that I want to get into is the dishonest contracts that these elected and public servants are doing. And like everybody's keep going off on this, that we could change our names, we could do this, we could become national citizens. Well, this is like when you read the actual structure of what FDR did and Dwight Eisenhower did, with executive order. What was that one? 10834.
Yep.
These are the points that people don't read and comprehend how it affects their livelihood. So with these structure that affects their livelihood, because if we're not producing the structure and knowing your bloodline, because people don't realize, why do you think they started really doing DNA? Your bloodline matters on this soil. If we don't have lawful bloodline on this soil, we have no constitution, we have no government that is lawful, not legal. That's the Republican form of structure that we're supposed to be having. Democracy wasn't really shoved down their throats until 1940 with the Administrative Rule Act. And that goes back to the 1968, the school districts, when they started forming that on the education system. And this is where most don't comprehend that effect, how that affects them. Because when you're paying allegedly property taxes or donating to these non-profits for schools, fire departments, corporations. Who's trying to call me now? Well, hang on a second. I'm going to tell Mike to join us. Hang on. You take it right now, Dave.
The Executive Order 10834 by Eisenhower very plainly spells it out that the martial law flag that the states are flying and the courts are flying in their offices actually carries a 1-year prison term. And the judges will give you a line like, oh, it was there when I took office, or something to that effect. Well, actually, it doesn't matter if it was there when they took office or not. The fact of the matter is they're still aiding and abetting in what is called color of law fraud against you in their courtroom, because these people are elected and public servants from the state of which you represent, okay? And once you go into their pseudo-corporate courts, because every judge, lawyer, attorney are all traded on Dun & Bradstreet, Wall Street, that makes them corporations. That's conflict of interest. So then you get into their courtrooms, and oh gee, we now have a gold fringe flag flying there. Let's see, that would make that color of law fraud against you, because you are either a military court under color of law, or you're flying a standard American flag or a U.S. flag of peace, which you never see in any courtroom. So they're running a color of law fraud against you, and it's called Bond, Commodities, and CUSIP Fraud Scheme. because they're taking your case number and they're selling it on D&B, Wall Street. And they're profiteering from public office. All the judges get 25% of the take of the court. And they hide it in their retirement fund so they don't have to pay corporate taxes. We're not supposed to know this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, we do know it, and we got big mouths.
I think we filed it, too.
Oh, we most certainly did. Our 5 unrebutted affidavits pretty much nailed them right to the wall.
Not only that, we know Judge Scalia had that one when he went to Texas.
That's right, he did.
That was on lawful and legal.
You and I are not afraid to deal with the very, very top of the line.
No, that's why I'm serving my paperwork.
That's what scares these people.
Well, and even my paperwork, I even put that out today, and I could prove where the district attorney, the state attorney general, and everybody covered up trying to take me out.
Oh, I know.
And it's in the paperwork. It's there. It's done. It's out. You know? This ain't a game, folks. You have to know your bloodline if it's lawful or legal. You have to know your standing when you go to these maritime courts, okay? And these people that are trying to get you to go become, a foreign agent or foreign national and all this stuff, they're going after that in immigration right now. Wake up. You have to know if you're lawful or legal. So when you go to court, if you're lawful or legal, and people argue this with me all the time going, Ed, how can you prove the bloodline? How can you prove this? And it's like, what is that article? What, Dave?
Well,
you there, Dave?
What does R stand for?
No, the article that says that you had to be lawful in this country.
Oh, Article 2.5.
That's right. How come people can't read the Constitution when our forefathers did to protect our bloodline and our food resources and our land, and they don't comprehend the reality because if we don't protect us, we have no future. We're going to be cannibals like the rest of the world?
Most people are, Ed. They don't realize what our public and
what they're eating. Yeah, that's true.
Got us into against our knowledge and consent.
Mm-hmm.
See, the men and women of this nation are the first branch of our government.
Mm-hmm.
It's called We the People.
The lawful Americans.
Constitution for the United States of America.
Well, technically, the original structure says the United States for America. They changed of America in 1871.
Right. The situation, as I see it, is that they have dummied down the average American to the point where he's lazy. He does not wish to spend any time doing research, which is to his detriment. Because if he doesn't start getting into this stuff and figuring it out for himself, we may as well kiss the country adios.
That's right.
Slaves under a dictatorship.
Not only that, the men used to bring the education to the women used to run the homes. They used to educate the children. Everything was done in honor.
Well, maybe we need to go back to homeschooling. A lot of people are doing that.
I agree with you. That's one thing me and my ex were doing, and we were heavily attacked for doing that because I was heavily attacked by even my own family going, who gives you the right to educate, the kids and stuff? You guys don't graduate from school. How do you know what's going on?
Ask the average student today to quote anything from the Constitution. Anything. They just look at you.
No knowledge.
Are you? What are you talking about?
You
bring the Constitution up in school today, in a high school in this country, and your teacher can have you expelled.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know I've had women in my own community. The kids come up and want to know the Constitution. They want to know their rights. And I got mothers telling me, if you try to teach my kid, I'm calling the cops on you.
Yeah.
For teaching their kids the truth.
Well,
they're too young to know, they say.
I'm not teaching your kids. I don't teach your kids. How can I teach your kids? Your kids learn. They don't get taught.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all in the name that you use and the verbiage you use as to how, oh, gee, we figure it out. So, but yeah, we were discussing earlier about the call last night.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday.
Are we on for? By the way, are we on for the show tomorrow morning?
I haven't heard yet. Have you?
Revolutionary Friday.
When you get a chance, resend me the email. I'll try to refer to that tonight or first thing in the morning.
I just come across it here, Ed.
Well, resend it back to me. Anyhow, the other point that me and Dave had yesterday was a wonderful talk show we had on Revolution Radio with Stephan. You know, and this is the point of getting all this stuff out so people are not getting confused. So they're not putting themselves in liability. Because the main point is that when you go file your paperwork or when you're filing your instruments, okay, you have to know what you're filing, number one. You have to comprehend what you're doing, number two. Okay, the best you can. Okay? And that's the point, that you need to figure this stuff out. You can't sit there and think, and it's interesting because I've had many people that come to me for help, and then next thing you know, they're working with an attorney, and then you tell them this, that, and the other, and the attorney says they can't do this, and da-da-da-da-da, and then they go and they lose their case, and they're wondering why. They're authorizing the attorney to speak for them. They're not sitting there and telling the attorney what to do. They're not realizing or comprehending the reality that they have the authority to tell the truth. Here's another guy, Paul Indrus was arrested and he had his home raided for a warrant stamp. All right, no grand jury for $2,025 of child support on a bench warrant. Okay, but see, you have to file this stuff before this happens, folks. You try to explain this to people to file their paperwork before these things happen. The paperwork is there. You have to know how it works. Our court systems are set up to work for us, but we have to make sure the work that they do is for us. Our system is that we have to make sure it works for us. It is our responsibility not to turn our back on it. Okay? I mean, this is one thing that was set up going back to 1775. When you look at real history, and if you want to go through the Southern paperwork and all this stuff, the main reason that we didn't get in arguments, okay, we didn't want to pay property taxes. We didn't want to pay all these corporation taxes that got us in a stronghold. All right, taxes are voluntary. Property taxes are voluntary for lawful bloodline Americans. Elected and public servants have to pay them. That's part of the structure. That's part of mine and Dave's instrument. It says it in the IRS code, and it says by administrative rules. Okay, because they're getting a paycheck, and that's in the letter that I just put out with my paperwork. They get it from a paycheck they get. So when they get that paycheck, they're agreeing, when they cash that paycheck, is to honor the oath of the Constitution, not a foreign corporation. You know, and so you have to realize this stuff. You know, you can't argue these things, because if we're starting to argue we're not protecting our bloodline, we're not protecting the original structure of this country that gave us our freedom, so we have rights, not privileges, we're the ones that are losing. You know? Anyhow, Dave, go ahead.
Well, I think you pretty well covered it. Is Santa Claus on by chance?
I don't know. Let me go look at the register. I didn't call him personally myself.
I didn't either.
You know, so I didn't get him called personally myself, so I don't know, and I don't think I see him on the roster.
Yeah, he was supposed to be our guest last week, and we kind of overlooked him.
Yeah. Well, I'll call him up. We'll get him back on. Things like that happen.
Yeah, right.
You know,
anyway, I just forwarded to you the email I got from Pamela. Okay.
Okay.
Go tomorrow morning?
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, all right, I'll get to that.
You should. It's quite lengthy, so it's going to take some time to read it. And if
we've been through that
morning,
before.
Wow. Okay. That being said, we needed to clarify some things that we kind of missed on last night's show on AM, FM.
Yesterday's show.
The fact that the judges, lawyers, and attorneys being traded on Dun & Bradstreet, Wall Street, and Trial Lawyers, Inc. on Dun & Bradstreet are registered communist organization.
Mm-hmm.
So if the judges, lawyers, and attorneys, being corporations traded on D&B, that is definitely conflict of interest, since the judges hold the bar card hostage of the attorney when they're in court. If you represent your client rather than a corporation, you can be disbarred. That's extortion.
Actually, that's fraud, too.
So,
go ahead, may I?
It's fraud upon the court.
Hang on a minute, Dave. We got somebody speaking.
Okay.
Just real quick, in regards to that, the judge, I found that one of my judges is registered on Dun & Brad under his...
Talk closer to the phone, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, better. Great. Now we can hear you.
Okay, I did find one of my judges in my federal case on Dun & Bradstreet under his full name. Is there any way anyone can send me a link in regards to exactly why that's a conflict of interest and what statutes or law refer to that? I yield.
Got you. Do you have some of that stuff? I got to do a little research. I know that I have that on my page a while back ago. That'll be a little research time for me to dive back myself. But do you have that handy, Dave, by any chance?
I don't have it handy. It's in our affidavits. We
know that's in our affidavit, too. But this gentleman, I don't believe, is on Facebook. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I am on Facebook.
Oh, okay. So you're on my friends, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
All right. Send me a friend's request so I can put you in our link, so that way we can put you right to the instrument on it.
Okay. Can you give me the Facebook page real quick, and then
my Facebook page is Edward Johnston, and I have a white teddy bear with a red rose.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, as soon as you give me a friend's request, I'll get you this information, and I'll get you on our groups, because we have this stuff filed on our groups. Okay, because we have the United States for America Republic, elected and public servants oversights. Then we have the New Oregon Trackers on Facebook, but that doesn't have all the files on it. The other one that has files on them is the Civil War 1866 Lawful Bloodline Americans on Facebook.
lot of things you can Google, like conflict of interest, and it'll come up there too.
Right.
What'd you say? Oh, yeah, cut off, and I was just trying to call back.
Yeah, no problem, because the whole point is, see, if we're not educating each other, how are we supposed to know this stuff? Because we know the system doesn't want to know this because they can't rape, rob, and steal from us if we do know it. You know what I mean? So they don't like that we're educating ourselves to the truth.
But yet they can't do anything about it because, we back it up by their writings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the most irritating point of all of this stuff is that what Ed and I are doing is we back it up by, rulings of the Supreme Court or rulings of the lower court, the Court of Appeals, statutes, codes, codifications.
Yeah, he told me that. I just
congressional records.
I need some all of it. Money. I mean, I talked to him about doing something with a whip.
Say that again?
You're too far away from your phone. We can't make you out.
Right. See, you talked to him. I've been totally out the loop with him. I ain't talked to the girl yet.
Talk closer to your phone. We can't hear you.
Hello?
Hello?
I don't know what that gentleman just said.
I think we lost him. He'll call back.
Yeah.
But, this is the whole point is about realizing what the truth is compared to what people get running around. Everybody wants to go change their name. Everybody wants to go do this or that and the other thing. And it's like, if you can't claim who you are, you can't protect your bloodline under the circumstances to prove that you're lawful or legal so that way you have standing on this soil. Because the realistic point of view, folks, the United States of 48 states, not 50. It's like, what is, I love this question. I heard this in the talk show earlier. Dealing with the 50 states, what was the last state that actually had a king? Does anybody know that one?
Hawaii.
You got it, Hawaii. But they're not a state. They were brought in after the Civil War. They were brought in under commercial administrative rules.
And they have since withdrew that.
Yep.
So they are not even a state under the state that you just stated.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact. That's like California is trying to secede from the Union, and they want to do their own country. People have got to wake up to what these guys are doing. They're trying to put it under dictatorship of the Queen of England, folks.
Exactly.
I'm a fifth-generation San Franciscan. I see this fact what Jerry Brown is doing. I knew Jerry Brown growing up as a kid. I worked on 2 of his campaigns in the 70s when I was a kid. So when I see this stuff and what I was told to believe or what I was told or what he said when I was growing up is 100% different than what he's really doing.
Well, I'm not so sure what he's trying to do is actually lawful.
I don't think he knows half the stuff he's trying to do.
Congress never dealt with secession.
Mm-hmm.
So what is his law basis to which he can secede?
Or even trying to claim jurisdiction or jurisdiction of the matter.
He is part of the federal corporation established in the Bankruptcy Act.
Mm-hmm.
So has the president and CEO of the corporation and the board of directors and all that voted to allow him to continue with what he's thinking about doing? Right,
exactly. Those are the things that make you go, That's the whole point, that those are the things that really make you go, when you go through those things.
Right, as we pointed out on the show last night, the Bankruptcy Act was...
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't last night. It was yesterday at noon my time.
A staged event, Ed.
I know.
And I pointed it out. I said, in 1933, who were we at war with that Roosevelt had the authority to declare a national emergency and use his War Powers Act to suspend the Constitution?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody had an answer, did they?
Nope. Nobody did. The attorney sure didn't.
No. It was news to her.
Yeah, that's the thing. That it was a lot of things we were saying was news to her, you know, for an attorney. And everybody's trying to say, well, these attorneys are not educated. And I guess I have to give the compassion to that ignorance. But the other side to me is that...
excuse when you studied the law.
Well, but see, the point is I'm trying to be compassionate, and that's scary sometimes. Okay, but see, they don't read the Constitution and comprehend what the Constitution means because they're, like she was bringing up yesterday, they're taught to argue court cases to sit there who's going to be able to justify the financial income.
Well, sure.
You know, and it was like, so where's the basis here? So it's all based on, you know, basically income and has nothing to do with justice or whatever anybody wants to call justice, but it has nothing to do with making the amends and making the amends of the circumstances of the injured party or injured, you know, property damage. So those are the things that make you wonder. You know, they really do make you wonder. You know, I mean, you know, we've had a lot of good talk shows here lately, and this is the one thing that, you know, when you're filing your affidavits, remember you have to be honorable and honest with them. You cannot fidge on it. You cannot supersede a thought. You cannot put emotions in it. You cannot put your feelings or feelers in it. It has to be done by facts.
Correct.
You do it. Go ahead.
I just said correct.
Oh, okay. But, I mean, this is the point. I mean, I just got my affidavit out dealing with my identity theft. I could prove the district attorney when I recalled the school board and when I did everything in the state of Oregon, I proved because I'm a subsistence hunter and fisherman, as they have me registered in the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and you can call them. They all know me up there. Trust me. You know, I mean, it's like... It's one of those things that if you're going to have a right, you have to have a right. It's like I cannot go get what they call public assistance if I want to have my subsistence right to hunt and fish. Technically, I should supposed to be getting both because I'm lawful, so I'm supposed to be able to get that, and that's what the natives are supposed to get. And natives means all color and races, not just Indians, part of the treaties. Because people got to realize what native means in the structure of the way that was put in our forefathers, put it in our Constitution. You know, you're an inhabitant. If you're not an inhabitant and prove your bloodline, you're not lawful. These things have been brought out in courts through the 1775s and all the way up to the present date, and the last court case on that was 2013. And that was in my other writing I put together. That's in the one I'm putting out right now. Also, too, we do have the court cases where the judge determined that the government has everything by FDCPC insurance. So these are things that you need to research when you're putting your instruments together. Write in these things. These judges have done this stuff. Put them in your work. Because when you're quoting their own structure to them, they can't deny that. Everybody wants to go on these different paths, but if you're putting their words to them, their administrative rules to them, their codes and offices to them, if they don't follow their administrative rules, and we have that too in the one I've been posting on our weekly stuff, dealing where that the system, judge, attorney, anybody gets paid, by the system, they have to honor the Constitution for their payment. If they don't, that's actual treason. So these things that when you see this stuff, you can file this stuff with your instruments or put it up on their Facebook walls or send them a message and say, were you guys aware of it? Because, people are trying to give me more and more to have compassion because people don't see some of these things. And I have to have that reality, because I know sometimes people get their eyes woken later than some others do. And so it does come down to compassion on that. So when you're getting it, don't sit there and start questioning your mind when you're starting to open your eyes and you feel it. When you feel it in your body and soul, what you're reading, and it makes sense that this is the way it is. You have a constitutional right if you're lawful. If you're legal, you have legal rights as a citizen. And realize there are citizen laws that have been passed to protect you in public laws, so long as that you're paying your taxes and following administrative rules. They can't screw with you so long as you do that. There is a lawful and legal difference in our country. We're the only place in existence in the universe that has that. That's why we have what they call the First Amendment, free religion. And then we can argue the point with, aren't the Muslims supposed to have free religion? Well, we had a president in 1801 that says no, because we had the bloodiest bath, because those type of people in Sharia law believes that the woman do not have rights, children do not have rights. Okay, our Constitution gives the woman a right to her body. Men, women, choice, churches, somebody else's opinion might not like what she wants to do with her child, but that's her body, her responsibility. Yes, a man has part of that liability or side of point of that. But when it comes down to it, the men and women need to pick each other that is protecting their bloodline, or else we're all losing. So we can sit there and argue about tidbits and all this other stuff, but if you're not protecting your own personal bloodline, planting fruit, learning how to can, collecting water so you're protected no matter what, start being more of a reliance on yourself instead of reliance on things around you. Because if it shots off tomorrow, it's like, when Andrew hit and all these other hurricanes hit, they had food stocks within hours that were gone. They had no more food they could bring into the cities and stuff because they couldn't do it because the roads were down. So you have to think about these things of how to prepare yourself for your family. For yourself, number one. The people around you, who you care for. And the Constitution says you don't have to help thy neighbor. Okay, these are things that it depends on if your neighbor is honorable or respectful. These are the points that we all have to work at. We all have to think about. Because if we don't sit there and protect the bloodline, what future do you realistically have? Because if your bloodline gets wiped out, you become extinct. Just food for thoughts. These are things. That's why when we quote the stuff that we do, we deal with things that are lawful and legal. We walk through this stuff. We battle this stuff. I've argued this stuff in public hearings. I've filed this stuff in public hearings. I've been blessed because I've had Senate and House bills with my name on them or involved in them. I've been blessed. Okay, but see, these are things I don't take for granted. The point now is that so long as we're educating ourselves to educate our bloodline so that way we're not in some type of situation or homelessness structure. So if you're an immigrant, yes, you have to pay your property taxes. You have to follow all the structures, set up your bloodline for your fifth generation. If you're third, set it up that structure. All right? And, if you don't have personal bloodline, you can set it up for your siblings, for their bloodline. There are ways to do this to protect our country. This is the only way we're going to start protecting our country. If we don't protect it by doing it lawfully through our heritage, there is actual no future. That's why they started doing all this DNA stuff 10 years ago in the system, and that's why they want to put chips in everybody's hands and bodies. You know, I think it was New Zealand or Australia is trying to do mandatory chips on everybody. Germany is trying to do the same thing. You know, they've actually had Senate and House bills, all right, and this country trying to do the same things on the congressional floor and throughout individual states. So this is how severe we are really living. And it's like, you know, people talk about their Second Amendment rights. Where does it say you need a concealed license permit? Oh, that's right, the 1938 Foreign Administration Registration Act. All immigration, elected, foreign agents, and public servants should register. Lawful Americans do not. But if they do that, they're in a higher punishment bracket, basically, because they can't sit there and claim that, you know, oh, well, I did something stupid, because men and women take responsibility for their actions, you know. So these are things that we're looking at that we have to deal with today, you know. And, you know, it's like we've got this other notice we put out with dishonorable or to our elected and public officials. You guys could use this stuff. Put it in your structure, too. You know, if they're dishonorable, they're having this issue, put dishonorable in it. Because if you don't put this stuff in writing and claim it, this way down the road when things start going through, when they're getting indicted or they're going through the paperwork to figure out who, what, and how, once it's filed on them, it could be 2 or 3 years down the road, but all of a sudden the door opens, the hammer falls, the evidence is there. They can't rebut it. They can't change it. You know? So anyhow, Dave, you want to go on here for a minute?
Yeah, I'm gonna repeat some things here because
talk to the phone a little closer, please.
Okay.
Thank you. That's better.
The show because we didn't get everything covered, and when we were discussing the Bankruptcy Act, Roosevelt used his War Powers Act, and like I said before, no one, we were not at war with anybody for him to declare a national emergency. That was fraud in the inducement, and that is criminal fraud.
Mm-hmm.
You go into page 400 of the Congressional Record, House, December the 13th, 1932, you will see where the international banksters forced the United States into bankruptcy.
The United States Corporation.
Yes.
Let's just clarify that for folks.
Right, because we all assume that it's still the United States of America. Well, the acts of treason of our elected and public servants null and void anything that they've done because the people have never given them the authority to do it in the first place. That would come in the form of a constitutional amendment because Congress, by legislation, cannot alter the Constitution from which they derive their power to legislate. And there was another case recently, well, not recently, it's been a while back. I just put it in one of my papers, Ed. Do you remember, let me see if I can find it here. Give me a minute. I don't
have that on record in front of me, so I can't say that.
Just trying to remember which, if it was in the letter to Secretary Liu. Let me see if I can get this opened up.
So, but the one point until Dave gets back on that one, you know, it's like we've been putting up a lot of information, even with the color of law dealing with the FBI. Now, we know the FBI is a fictitious corporation, technically, that was created to basically do investigations. Totally, technically, to my knowledge, was supposed to be investigating House and Senate members if they're involved in fraud. But all of a sudden, their extension got out, and so, you know, it goes like what we were talking about to somebody yesterday dealing with the Marijuana Stamp Act. Okay, you have to remember marijuana is a legal terminology. Hemp is not. It is knowing the circumstances of what, why, and how. Okay, and this is the point that people need to really realize, that you have to open up these books, read them, comprehend them, what they're saying. Okay, because if you go in front of a court or if you're talking in front of people, you want to definitely make sure you know what you're talking about. You want to make sure that you have the knowledge of what you're saying on the case that you're dealing with, even it might be personal or not. But you have to know these information. If you don't have that fact, then how are you supposed to say what you're calling facts compared to saying a presumption? Did you find that yet, Dave?
No, I haven't yet. I'm opening the documents here. I'm not coming up with the right one yet.
Oh, okay.
Just remember, I have just tons and tons and tons of documents open, just like Ed does. So when we're trying to find something, we have to go through.
Yeah, we go through things. I mean, you know, this is the one thing, because we do research. I do research day in and day out. Okay, people send me stuff all the time. I have to go verify it, because I don't like to be making a fool out of myself, just like nobody likes making a fool out of themselves. And I think everybody can respect that point. You know, I mean, it's the point that we have to learn to respect one another. This is the point that we have to know the knowledge of one another. And so, anyhow, that's... take that after a bit. I can't take that call right now. Anyhow, so this is the point that knowing what's going on in the circumstances around us. So when you're filing your instruments, this is the big point, that you have to know what you're filing, knowing what you're putting together. When you're going into these kangaroo court systems, yes, we all realize this stuff. Okay, but the point is that you have to realize the point of what you're doing, what you're standing for, you know, knowing your rights when you're dealing with these, if you're lawful or legal. See, if you don't know your rights on lawful and legal, you know, these public pretenders and these people are not going to sit there and defend you. It's not their job. Everybody can get upset, but it's not their job. Because their job is to basically rape, rob, and pillage. They're going after the structure that are taught by Roman law or canon law. It's all the same difference. You know, and this is the point. When you go into court, you get to look what's on the flag. You know, if you know it's the war flag and it has an eagle on it or a ball or a spear on it, is learning what their jurisdictions are. And yes, it is crazy. Yes, it is stupid. And we know it's ridiculous. And why do we have to do this? This is what they've done to us so they can rape, rob, and pillage us. It's like, you know, have you ever watched the movie Pawn Stars? This is a good show out there. You know, and they keep saying, you know, on Pawn Stars is really interesting. Because everybody wants to sell their structure and get more money. You know, they'll go borrow money for something that they really don't need. They think they need, but they don't need. And we live this all the time. This is the frustration that we live like kids with video games. Everybody wants to argue for video games, you know, but look what it's really done to our communities. Look what it's done to our children. You know, I mean, most of us, I'm in my 50s, you know, and I remember when people used to sit there and walk down the street and talk about what was going on. You know, people would sit there at the nights, you know, even though that sometimes you ended up with the drunken idiots out there sometimes. Okay, but most of them, 99% of the ones that were out there never harmed anybody. But we've been so paranoid that we're taught about drugs and alcohol. And remember, drugs and alcohol, there's no such thing as a drug addict. There's no such thing as an alcoholic. It's a mind control. You give up your rights. You give up your responsibility. You let that control you. You cannot sit there and say you have one way or the other, you're one or the other, because you've given up your responsibility. You know, that's where you have to go find that for yourself. Come back to reality. You know, these are things that people don't think about. You know, when we go through the problems we go through, how do we get there? How do we get back? You know? No, Dave, did you find that yet?
No. I sent this to you, and I was going into my sent mail to see if I could find it quicker. Right now, there's two court cases. Well, we got the 16th American Jurisprudence is one. Second edition, Section 177, law written in violation of this Constitution is as though it was never written and no one's obligated to obey it.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is another, Mallory, I think it is the court case, Mallory, U.S. versus Mallory or something like that. But anyway, this court case very plainly says that anything written in violation of the Constitution is null and void. So what we have are the corporation of the United States by legislation think that they can take the Constitution and alter it by whatever means they feel is appropriate. And as citizens, knowing the 16th American Jurisprudence and the other court cases involved, we don't have to pay attention to this. We go into their courts and they say, "Oh, you have to do this." No. That's a violation of the Constitution. In fact, that violates your oath to preserve and protect.
Mm-hmm.
So now we can file charges on you in your private, public, and personal capacities for fraud.
Mm-hmm. And extortion.
Assassination.
Mm-hmm. And remember, these men and women are liable.
Yes. These pseudo-corporate courts, because Title III courts were done away with in the Administrative Procedures Act. Oh, gee, that was during the bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
If they are not Title III courts, they are pseudo-corporate courts. Are the judges not traded on Dun & Bradstreet, Wall Street? You bet they are. Are they selling courts under a bond commodities? Pay attention, commodities. QSIP fraud scheme. Okay, that's profiteering from public office. That's fraud upon the court. None of their contracts that they have you sign in court have the word contract on them at all. So I hope you're understanding or comprehending, the fact that everything that goes on in these courts, the pseudo-corporate court judge only has jurisdiction in contract disputes. So what's he trying to do? Trying to get you to contract with the court.
Mm-hmm.
So if you sign anything in court, sign it under duress and your name. It's null and void.
And put on it, null and void. You know, when I was in jail, I was putting all this stuff on these release paperwork. You know, and then they started just releasing me for jail, and the judge was getting pissed off at them because I wouldn't sign anything. You know, and then they signed my name when I'm in the hospital on an IV drip for a heart attack. They come in and bring my paperwork, throw it to me on the floor, said, "Here you go." And I never signed anything from jail or a release form. And that's on the YouTube video with me and the so-called public pretender. You know, it's like, they kidnapped and held me for ransom. And then they tell me, well, if they murder you, that's not called murder, that's homicide. So, this is what really goes on here, folks. This is horrifying when it really comes down to it. But if you're not standing up and start standing up for your bloodline, your structure, knowing how to claim to protect your bloodline, because if you don't protect your bloodline, it becomes extinct and you become extinct. Think realistically. You know, if you don't have children, you don't have any bloodline. You're not existence in the universe. You become extinct.
I found it.
Oh, good. All right. Now go ahead.
It's Marbury, Marburry versus Madison. Okay, this case, at the very bottom, it states, therefore, an act of the legislature repugnant to the Constitution is void.
Mm-hmm.
I love the word repugnant. So in short and sweet terms, the judge in Marbury very plainly summed it up. You cannot alter the Constitution or it is void.
Mm-hmm. And all these people out there are trying to say, we need to change the Constitution, we need to do this. You need to realize and learn. Go ahead, Dave.
Abide by the Constitution.
Well, learn how it's written and how to use it.
Right. It's their administrative rules. Why are they breaking their administrative rules?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Constitution is. You see, we, the first branch of government, established legislative, executive, and judicial branches. So if you, like Roosevelt did, suspended the Constitution, you just terminated your office.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we paying treason? Why are we? Yes, it is. Why are we paying the president and Congress and all the judges, the lawyers, and the attorneys and stuff to misappropriate public funds in their court system when they're terminated?
Mm-hmm.
And Dave, if I may.
Go ahead.
Okay. I got 3 cases in federal court, and I've been saying this.
Talk close to the phone, please.
I have 3 cases in federal court. I'm representing myself. I'm the plaintiff in all 3. I'm all plaintiff in all 3 cases, and I keep hearing what you guys are saying. I've pretty much done 95% of everything you said. They're not recognizing the documents that are on file by us. We're putting these documents in. We're stating Supreme Court rules, Supreme Court rulings, and they're still dismissing our case. So
Let me ask you this question. Did you file these with the clerk of the court first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So they're public record.
Absolutely.
So are they saying they're public? Is this court a court of record?
It's supposed to be a court of record, yes, here in Chicago, Illinois. Absolutely.
Okay.
You can look my case up. You can, if you have a Pacer account, you can look up every document that I filed. And the point I keep trying to make is, at this point, what do you do after this? I need to speak to someone, a private attorney general. I've yet to receive a phone call back, an email, anything. I have 3 cases in federal court. One of them is ready to go to the Supreme Court. I need some assistance. That's all I need is some assistance on how to move forward. I keep hearing about what we should be doing.
Attorney General for denying you your constitutional right to equal justice under the law?
Yeah, again, when you contact the U.S. Attorney's Office, they're actually representing the IRS in this matter. They don't want to hear what you have to say.
Now,
the assistant U.S. attorney is representing the Internal Revenue Service. So it makes no sense to go to the...
Now, hold. I want you to hear me out on this. The IRS is a division of the IMF. Okay? They are not a U.S. government agency.
I know that. I'm aware of it. I put it on the record. Now what?
Therefore, the U.S. attorney is committing treason against the Constitution.
I know that. I stated that. Now what?
Did you file it?
It's on the record.
Okay,
no,
so we need to now take this directly to the Supreme Court. Do you have these 60 key case cases that are not found in the IRS code?
No, I don't.
Okay, I think
you
those
just
are on our
with me,
website, Ed. If I remember right, Oregon Trackers, I think we posted those there.
Well, I was going to say, I think did you just became friends with me on Facebook?
Yes, I did.
I will put those cases up on your wall.
Okay, and I'll be looking for them. And
I've already been putting stuff on your wall. If you already noticed.
Yeah, I have noticed. You have been putting things there.
But this is my need to comprehend is the fact that the Long case proves beyond any shadow of a doubt the 16th Amendment was never lawfully ratified. Therefore, everything the IRS is doing is criminal fraud. It's extortion.
I'm aware of that. I've stated that, but the problem again was I'm saying to anybody on this call. I know where you're
coming from.
What do you do when you stated that and they still ignore your documentation? I need someone.
Let me explain what I'm doing right now with that, okay? I just filed my paperwork. I've got paperwork I'm mailing right now because I can prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, how the state attorney general, district attorney, and others conspired to try to assassinate me and murder me, okay? Beyond a shadow of a doubt. This ain't no joke. It's been in the news media for 10 years. Okay? And so I just finally putting the paperwork out. I'm getting it out. So what I'm doing is, I'm filing as a lawful bloodline American. I'm not claiming any other standing, any other name, any other circumstances. I'm not a sovereign, because that can be turned as a point of kingship. Okay, I'm filing everything under lawful bloodline American of my structure, which goes back, that I can prove going back to the 18 to 1700s. What they have passed by the administrative court records, what they did in the Constitution structure that gave us a right, okay? And so I'm on the same page as you. How do we do this? Now, what I'm doing is I'm filing mine in Washington, D.C. Superior Court. I'm filing mine in Philadelphia Superior Court because Philadelphia is the first and only lawful court on this land. Are you familiar with those 2 points?
Yes, I've heard that. Yes, I have heard that.
Well, I'm not hearing it. I'm doing it. This is what I'm doing right now.
Point of question here, Ed.
Go ahead, Dave. You got to talk on the phone, Dave. Get closer.
If we are under martial law.
But martial law only applies to elected and public service, registered church members, and immigration.
Yes, but they are not following the rules.
We know that. Yeah, that's the other point. That is a fact.
I point out first, and then you can add to this, okay? File it with JAG Corps, Air Force. File your case, copy your case to JAG Corps at the Air Force. Also, file it like Ed said. But here's the reason I want to do this. They're flying this gold fringe flag, which is color law fraud, claiming that they are under martial law. That falls under military. So let's hand it over to the military and say, here, these are the frauds you're doing against me. Then copy the U.S. Marshal Service as a criminal complaint and identity theft.
Yeah. And see, that's what I just filed, was identity theft on my whole case, because I filed mine because I've had people use my identity, credit card companies, other people use it that I never authorized. I'm talking, banks, whatever else, because I don't authorize anybody using my stuff because I own me. If that makes sense.
And a copy of our constitutional criminal complaint went to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Ed.
That's true, it did.
So
it went to several commanders as well, personally. I know, I mailed them.
And we haven't heard back one word from those boys, have we?
No, but we've seen administrative rules change.
Yeah, we have.
Okay, so, there's more than one way to skin a cat of what we're going through, and so, I'll get some more stuff up on your wall here in a little bit, because we're going through the same structure, because When I've been filing on my paperwork, I mean, I've had them covering up this when they destroyed my family, when I recalled the school board. I proved the fishing was a fraud when they closed down the fishery industry for subsistence fishery on the West Coast. Because we used to have a fishing and hunting quota here on the West Coast. We didn't need hunting and fishing licenses until the year 2000. I still don't have one. I still do it, but they know me because they registered me at the Capitol, you could sort of say. Okay, and the bottom line, if we don't start protecting each other, and that includes our honorable elected and public servants who are honoring their oath. We cannot forget the men and women in blue that are honoring their oath. And I mean, not the ones that are arresting people for no licenses and stuff, who are not playing that game, who are actually taking care of their communities. Because if they're playing the rape, rob, and pillage game of, sheriff from Nottingham, they don't deserve the respect. And that's the one thing we all have to realize that point. Because you cannot give elected and public servants honor and respect unless they deserved it. Because if we don't get our public servants representing us and themselves and their bloodline, all right, we do know we have public servants who are immigrants, but they took an oath of the Constitution, not their country, not their beliefs, where they came from. They took an oath to the Constitution to believe in the Constitution. All right, that means our freedom. That means without our freedom, they don't have a bloodline here. And everybody keeps going, Ed, why is the bloodline so important? Well, think about it, folks. If you don't have children, you become extinct. Isn't that a reality?
Sure is.
So, I mean, and this is where it comes down to. If you're not canning your food, raising food, collecting rainwater, protecting the land, making your own land as best you can, so that way you've got your safety on your land. Now, you can go in and type in Ed Johnston and John Kidstopper. I have I think it's a 37-page deal where I filed on the state and county what I just did again on property taxes. Okay, excuse me. Where's the law that says I have to pay property taxes? I already approved it that I'm lawful, and lawful Americans and Indians don't pay taxes. Period. Okay, that's lawful. Native.
I think you'll find that disabled Americans don't pay taxes either, do they, Ed?
Well, we're not supposed to, but I'm getting screwed by that one right now with disability again. It's been months since I've had income, and I want to thank those who have helped me out that have kept me afloat here the last few months.
I believe that falls under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Oh, yes. There's a lot of things. I quoted all this stuff. I filed on the board. I'm getting ready to file the claim on the Social Security board now.
Right.
Okay, but see, I keep filing this stuff on the board, and everybody keeps saying it doesn't get nowhere. When you start seeing administrative rules changes and you start seeing that people are resigning, you got people around them resigning.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay attention to the whole structure, how it works, because people will run and hide. Even though they resign, that doesn't mean they give up liability. They're still liable.
That's right. They're just going to try to make it harder for you to find them.
Right, because there's New Jersey judges were telling all the cops and social workers and CSP workers in the state of New Jersey to make sure that you have all your assets and properties and somebody in another family's name that you can honestly trust. Supreme Court judges were telling that in the state of New Jersey to CPS and cops and public workers. Because they know that they can be personally sued and they're liable.
That's right.
So, and I will have my case publicized here pretty soon.
The Pope made that statement that all corporations are herein dissolved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how can we have the United States of America be a federal corporation if the Pope dissolved them?
Yes, I know. I watched a lot of things the Pope did after I filed on his soul in 2013.
Yes, you did.
I mean, let me tell you, folks, if you haven't read the Magna Carta of 1215 and the Treaty of 1213, remember, that's in what country? England, where the Bible came from. England.
Mm-hmm.
When the natives were getting poison blankets from the ministers and nuns, chickenpox and other diseases, they're dying left and right. And what do they give the Indians for mercy? The Bible. Pray for forgiveness. You know, I mean, it just disturbs me that we don't see how the psychological corruption is put on us. You know, and we can stop this stuff, and it's so simple to stop it. You know, start standing up for your bloodline, take care of your family, raise food, raise that stuff. Don't sit there and contribute to these people that are sitting there taking away your rights and your rights to feed your family. You know, how come we don't have the woods and the food resources in our own cities? Like, how come the cities don't have vegetable gardens and fruit in the city parks? You know, those are things that really matter when you think about those things. You know.
Have you seen the new TV advertisements on Save the Food?
On who?
They have TV commercials out now called Save the Food.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that one.
If you have too much, share it with someone.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's being advertised all over the place here on just about every channel.
Well, that's good. That's interesting, but they need to start growing food. Teach people that.
Yeah.
Because once you start growing food around your neighbors and stuff and something hits the fan, you know you and your neighbors have got food. I mean, I know this sounds like, you know, crazy talk to some people, but we've got to the point where we got so out of control, so dependent and servant on others that we don't even know how to take care of our own selves anymore.
Well, one thing people had better comprehend is this fact. The interstate highway system was developed for truckers.
That's right. To transport products.
There's a state of emergency, they can go in and block your entrance to the interstate.
That's right. And the first things that can run on the military, or that can run on the interstates if they do that, is only military vehicles.
Well, military and commercial.
Well, yeah. Thank you.
Because you cannot impede commerce.
That's right. Or the mail.
Oh, most definitely not the mail.
I know. I used to work for the post office. I used to drive down emergency lanes all the time. I used to get pulled over. Hey, you can't do that. I'm driving to San Francisco, and they're like, you can't do this. I said, I'm the mailman. You can't stop me. I have a time to be here.
Right.
You know, I mean, it is knowing how it really works compared to what we think it is or what we've been brought up to assume it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And one question is this. Well, they may be interstate highways and they may be for commercial truckers. Who paid for it? Doesn't that fall under right to travel?
That's right. That's a fact. You know. So, but the other point I'd like to bring, the other gentleman would like to come back and bring some other points, or anybody else would like to speak up. Would you? We will yield the floor to anybody who would like to speak up.
Did we answer the gentleman's question on what to do next, or have we?
We didn't quite get to that question, I don't believe. Is he still there? Let me go see if he's still here.
Because I think between you and I, we've given him enough leeway. Because once you have Supreme Court decisions in your case and they are ignoring them, that is an automatic open door to the Supreme Court in appeal.
Right.
And you don't even have to wait for the appeals process. If they're denying you your case based on, we're not going to honor it, well, we'll show you a few things. We'll take you directly to the Supreme Court.
Well, that's the main point that people are not comprehending. They want to go fight the local court, and you got to realize you can't fight the local court. You have to take it to a real court, the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court does not mean a district court of the Supreme Court in your state.
Yeah, if you go into the U.S. Marshals website, on their website, it very plainly states something about color of law fraud. So I hope the guy's listening. He can Google that, U.S. Marshal on Facebook, and dig up their statement there. That's an automatic no-no. That falls under 18 USC at 1001.
That's right. And that's the point, that you've got to realize what the codes and administrators really work for us. But it's getting it so that way we know how to stand up to protect our rights. So we stand together making sure that these things happen. Because if we don't make them happen, they're not going to happen. And I'll be posting up here a minute on his site here, too, civil actions and false imprisonment. So this way he gets to get that, because I'm posting on a few other sites right now. But this is the point. I'm burying people, with information right now, too. And this is the other point. People keep saying, why are you contracting with them? Why are you contracting with them? Well, I don't contract with them. But most people don't know any better. This is the point that it is so frustrating, because if you're not taught this knowledge, how to defend yourself, this is the problems that we end up having. These are circumstances we're living right now. These are the frustrations that we're all going through. But the information is out there, and so you have to start writing it, putting it together, because nobody else knows what happened to you in your personal situation. Only you do. And that is the point. Only you do. So you have to stand up on your rights to know what you're doing, so that way you know the circumstances. So anyhow, I'm putting this other stuff up there. Then I'll get this gentleman into our other groups here in a minute, so you can go look at our filings too, because we have this stuff filed. Yes, there are things that are moving. There are things that we have won. I've won different court cases myself, and it's just freaking people out, because the system right now, I haven't backed off. They try to get me back and off the system of what they did to me years ago, and then when they try to do the other stuff when I was in jail and stuff. Because, see, when I announced I was running for sheriff, 4.5 hours later, I was kidnapped, held for ransom, because when I announced I was running for sheriff, I was going to stop the bullshit. Oh, shit, they couldn't have that. And you can watch the video, man. Ed Johnston running for Lincoln County Sheriff. It's on YouTube. These are the points. And they don't like it when you stand up for your rights, as you know. But you have to stand up. I don't bow to these guys. I don't back off from them. I'm still dealing with a couple bills I'm trying to get on for the Oregon's legislative right now. And one of those bills is, I believe it's called the right to travel. So that way lawful Americans are not buying a license. All right? We don't buy a driver's license. We're supposed to get a traveler's card. So this way we have ID, so we can't just be hauled off to jail, lose our assets, and be shot on site. These are things that are supposed to be protecting us, and we have to protect ourselves, and we have to protect the bloodline. If we don't protect the bloodline, there is no future, folks. Think about it. Your bloodline really matters, and people keep going, what does the bloodline matter? Well, how are you supposed to exist? Go ahead.
I said everything. It matters everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't protect your bloodline and your roots, as they say, anybody can come in and take advantage of you. So you need to know your standing, especially when you go to court or you're dealing with the IRS, because your standing with the IRS is everything.
Mm-hmm. Knowing if you're lawful or legal, too, has a lot to do with that.
Right.
This is where people want to argue these points, and the points you can't argue, you have to know.
See, the IRS and the IMF are foreign agents. I think they're unregistered foreign agents. The IRS are a corporation out of the state of Delaware, Division of Corporations. Now, if they're a government entity, then why do they have to be a corporation running a separate fraud scheme under a corporation out of Delaware?
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing I want to point out to this gentleman too, we want to get tied up with him here in the next few days, because we've got our filings and we need to sit there and put together basically an affidavit so we can all sign endorsing his case.
Right.
Okay, because, this is the other point I'm trying to get people to realize, this major, major, major part. Once we start endorsing each other's case, and everybody wants to go by the Bible, most people know what I feel about that book, all right? But if you have two or more witnesses that are willing to stand up and claim it, that you believe in it, that's like the same structure that went through when Finnegan was murdered on live video, which gets to me. Nobody filed criminal charges. Nobody wanted to get in doing that stuff, but I was trying to recommend putting that together and have the witnesses sign this, that, and the other thing, and nobody wanted to do it.
Well, do you remember that little deal out in Waco, Texas?
Oh, of course I do. I know why they murdered them, because they were educating people out of the system. But go ahead.
Janet Reno said she took full responsibility, so I wrote U.S. Marshal Service. I said I want to file criminal charges against Janet Reno for murder.
Mm-hmm.
The innocent children that they burnt and assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that, wouldn't that fall under murder charges? She accepted full responsibility, so why didn't anything ever happen to Janet Reno?
That's the other point. That's called democracy, folks. Here's the other point, too. If you type in Janet Reno's right to travel, which I have up on my structure, too, and I think it might be on her website, and if any on New Orleans Trackers, I'll get it on here in the next couple of days. But Janet Reno even came out with her predicament that says you have a lawful right to travel without papers in this country so long as you're an inhabitant. That means your bloodline.
So if you are an inhabitant, which we have well established, Edward.
Yep.
Going back to Article 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Morris, my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. Okay? How much further back do you have to go? And he signed all the papers leading to the Declaration of Independence.
Right.
One of the few.
Then you have other people who would say, well, my bloodline doesn't go back all the way to the Declaration of Independence, but my bloodline's been here since the 1800s or before the Civil War. Well, okay, so your bloodline here has been before the Civil War. And that's fine. That's what you put in the administrative rules or the Congressional Act of 1884 when that went through the Supreme Court. That says that you can be born on this land, and this falls under the 14th Amendment. You can be born on this land, but you're not an inhabitant, so you don't have rights to the land.
Well,
and that's where people don't get it.
This whole thing with land, okay? The inhabitants that were here on this land, when the Crown came over, and they started their rape, rob, melody, and murder of the innocent people that were here, who told them they had to be discovered?
Mm-hmm.
They were already doing commerce in the Middle East long before the Crown ever got here.
That's right.
It is documented. So they were known worldwide that there were people over here on this side. This thing that the world was flat and we had to prove it was round and all that is nothing but garbage.
When it really comes down to it, who cares as long as you're breathing air and living?
Yeah.
When it really comes down to it, you got your food, you know your security, you know you're safe. Who cares about this? I mean, they come up with so much garbage. You know, even evolution is another joke.
Yeah, I mean, they the minute that the Crown threw their flag on the sandy beach and established the first post office,
mm-hmm.
aka New World, they didn't have the right to do that. That was called land theft. And that is punishable by death.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact.
So you start thinking about this stuff, people. I mean, they have, I forgot what it was, if it's the Ten Commandments or what it actually was, that they, the early, I mean, we're going back, you know, Columbus's time, and
mm-hmm.
after that, they actually moved a stone from South America up to Louisiana, and I was trying to remember which one it was. I think it had the Ten Commandments on it. But anyway, that stone's been verified as authentic. And because of the stone it was written on, they've proven it came from South America. Now, how'd that just happen to get up here?
It's a fact. But this is the thing, you know. It's like, you know, when you step out of this metric system, as some would call it, you know, I mean, you just got to realize that, you know, we were raised into a fashion that we were not properly educated to what the truth is. We were indoctrinized in a lot of other beliefs, and there's a lot of us in my age group, or younger and older, that the major babysitter growing up was a video game or TV. You know, I mean, and it's accepting this point, not getting upset that says you didn't know this, you didn't know that. The point is that now you know it. How do you solve it? How do you resolve it? You know, this is the point that we have to look at how we're resolving these issues, how we're protecting the bloodline. And that's your bloodline, folks. You know, you have to realize that this is your bloodline. If you don't protect it, there is no future.
Right.
You know.
We've established this in our unrebutted affidavits, Ed. They cannot deny it now.
No, I know that. Not only that, I have had it stamped by the Secretary of State, and I brought it up and turned them into public hearings at the House and Senate of Oregon. Okay, so, and that's what I'm saying. You know, you want to make sure this stuff's on record. Turn it into your congressman on public hearings. You know, set up a day where you go up to the Capitol for a couple of days. Just go to the hearings and turn your information on the hearings. You know, bring up the facts. I mean, once people start doing this, like, you know, we went through this in Oregon with the Pam and Will Gasson cases and a few others. And we were tearing apart a lot of things up here in the state. And then the media sort of, I mean, they really started attacking us with no truth, no facts. And people, it's amazing how people believe what they hear without the truth.
Oh, really?
You know, they just hear something, they jump to it, and this is what they believe. You know, it's very stunning when those type of things happen. You know, so it is amazing. So I just want to open up the floor again. If anybody wants to speak up, you can speak up. So, anyhow, just a thought. So, but I mean, you know, when it comes down to the filings, and this is stuff that we need to work to stand together now. We've got Richard Summers who's got his filing going up in Washington. He was just written in the Wenatchee Times up there. You can type in Wenatchee, Washington newspaper, Richard Summers. Okay, we've got Mike doing his filing. So we've got this where with Richards, he's filed on the system, and he's had 3 judges already recuse themselves. Because a judge is an attorney. They can't sit on the case. So this one's going to be a while, if that makes sense.
Because they got to find a judge that's not an attorney.
Yeah, that's right. Find an actual judge who took a real oath to the Constitution.
Right.
Okay.
May I?
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Ed, this is Melissa.
Hey, how you doing, Melissa?
Interesting you talk about the judges and the bar attorneys and stuff, because that's exactly what I did some research on recently.
Did you say that again?
That is what I did some research on recently.
Yes.
Every single commissioner, judge, and supervisor judge, and whatever they want to call themselves, I actually can show that they each and every single one of them have a bar number.
Yep.
So that kind of makes their judgment null and void.
Well, yes, that's for sure. Plus, they've committed fraud upon the court.
And
treason against
and that's actually why they're, Ed and I didn't get a chance to fully talk about it, but that's the letter I just got from a public defender, or pretender, as I call him, who admitted that I called a Rule 60D3 fraud upon the court in the courtroom. And
wait a minute, was that before or after the instrument?
That was during my case, and that actually got me.
That was the instrument was dealt before before your case happened. I know that.
Well, no, I'm talking about during the CPA case back in November of.
Okay, I didn't know about that, but they actually put that one in writing?
I verbally stated it, and he actually stated in his letter because I turned him into the Bar Association.
All right.
The letter I just received said that I'm severely mentally ill because of the simple fact that I called fraud upon the court. And I actually was surprised that he would say this, and he lied, and he manipulated the Bar Association because I told him he did not file my appeals in my case like I asked him to do, and he said in his own words and documents that he filed what he felt was appropriate for me.
Now, I just want to answer one question. Did I comprehend that correctly? You just recently got a letter stating you were mentally ill because you called fraud upon the court?
That's what the letter says to me.
When did you get this letter?
Within the last week. And the police report that in my case, because I had that case for intimidating a witness, which happens to be a state worker.
Oh, Melissa?
Melissa,
also,
Dave was going to say something. Hang on, Melissa. Dave, speak to your phone.
Okay. I said, Melissa, would you now write this attorney a letter, ask him for his copy of his psychologist degree?
He doesn't have one.
No, but you have to put it in writing. You're missing the point, Melissa.
Oh, put it in writing and request him
you want to send him a letter back asking where he gets a psychological degree, ask him what university he got it from, ask us the registration number of it.
which we know he'll say he
But
doesn't
it doesn't
have.
matter. But see, you're curating the record.
The reason you're going to do that is, number one, you're going to establish a record that either produce it or he's a liar, and therefore he has slandered your name.
Well, not only has he slandered my name, but I have 2 police officers who slandered my name based off of a therapist, or not a therapist, but a social worker who claims, and this is actually kind of funny, she's the same age as I am, and claims that she is intimidated by me because I told her to look up the laws and use Title 18, 241, and 242 as examples.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm saying. Melissa, is like what Dave just brought up. You have to put this stuff in writing, because what are you doing?
Creating a paper trail.
Yeah, the record.
A record. Mm-hmm.
Right, and this is the main point, folks. You have to realize this. If you're not creating the record, it does not exist. So every time you're going into that courtroom, you're putting that record in for evidence. You send it registered certified mail. You go to the clerk and just say, hey, put this into my case, stamp it for me. You just keep your mouth shut, don't say anything else. I mean, I watch so many people go in, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and the clerk goes, oh, shit, man, they closed the window on them. You don't go in and tell them what you're doing. Just say, I just want this stamp for the case, please, and I know it's going to cost me $1 a copy or $1 a copy. I'll pay it. Pay it. Shut up. You get the record. Now you got the proof. It's stamped in their record.
Well, another thing I want to bring up to you guys' attention is Friday I went into court. And
I know they love that instrument.
I got yelled at for that instrument. But I got actual documentation that as soon as I can, I'm going to get to you, Ed, is I got Idaho Department of Health and Welfare actually asking my husband, who has been declared as borderline mentally retarded, to pay back Title 4E foster care payments.
What payments?
Title 4E foster care payments.
They can't nail them for that.
But the judge who signed the order did. Court ordered him to pay $1,746.06.
Well, see, he can't do that because your husband is disabled and you have the disability structure. I know that on your Facebook wall right now.
Mm-hmm. The problem is my husband's not receiving Social Security.
It does not matter.
No, it doesn't.
No, this is where people do not comprehend this reality. When you have certain medical records, it does not mean if you're on welfare, Social Security, or the system. They classify this. Now you have the proof that says you are.
Exactly. And it was interesting. Because I actually have, Ed, I have the audio recording of a caseworker asking me to pay my husband's child support. The same one I'm accused of intimidating.
Right, because that's what you're doing. Now, the tape recording you want to make public.
Which I've been trying to figure out how exactly to make all these recordings public. So I gave them to somebody to hold on to in case something happened to me.
Well, you want to make sure you have copies, too.
I'm pretty sure.
We can make it part of the show.
Yeah, we can always put them on the show, too.
And once it's posted to Facebook, that's public notice.
Ed, I think you actually have one of her recordings where she said, had it not been for my husband being a different father, I would have been terminated immediately.
I don't know if I do or not, to tell you the truth. I have so much, I haven't even had a chance to go through all of the emails I got from you.
That's one of the audios I sent you. It was December 11th, 2014, where she told me just before I picked up my psychological evaluation that I had to pay for.
Okay, well, I'll have to do that. I'm trying to, like I said, I'm juggling. I'm doing a juggling act. You know that, too.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you do on your evaluation?
Yes, and that's the other point, too. You want to put an affidavit in so you get the evaluation on yourself and the progress notes on the case.
They will not allow me the record. They won't allow me.
I don't care what they allow you. You put it in record.
You paid for, but have not received, even though you have requested copies of their evaluation.
You're creating the record. If you don't create the record, this is how when they go to court, this is how they win. I argue with people on hundreds of cases over the last 20 years. Okay? Oh, you don't understand this. You don't get this. You don't know how they do this. And it's like, you're not creating the record when you go in so that way you have evidence. If you have no evidence in a case, it does not exist. Because when you go into court and they start bringing up this and that, and every time the judge speaks, you say, I object, I object, I object. You know? And then my question to you, Your Honor, now I notice an A4 on fraud upon the court. I'm asking you a question here. Does this apply to this court? You ask them the questions like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I watch people that go into court going, you know, and I've even done that myself. I'm a sovereign citizen at one point, you know, until I realized how stupid I was when I said it. At the time I said it, I knew I was stupid. So, you know, it was interesting because they didn't do nothing that day because the judge was like, oh, shit, I don't know what the hell to do with him again.
Well,
now, this is the same judge that was involved destroying my family with the district attorney and the state attorney general at the time.
Well, people who file cases in court as sovereign citizen put one word too many on that case. You are a sovereign.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like using the word sovereign myself. I use lawful bloodline because they're lawful American.
Again, Ed, you're speaking up before you let me finish.
I know.
All right. So,
speak closer to the phone, Dave. You're backing off on the phone.
If you would have plainly stated, I am a sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Because the United States Supreme Court ruled that men and women are sovereign.
That's a fact.
Corporations are not. So you are not a sovereign citizen. My golly. You are a sovereign. You are a creation of the great creator, God, whatever you want to call him.
That's right.
And you have the Supreme Court case to back you up. They can't say, oh, you're a nutcase. Oh, you could call the United States Supreme Court nuts? I'll be glad to take this little documentation right to the court and have you held in contempt.
See, and that's a valid point Dave's bringing to everybody, too. You know, because, see, you know, it's knowing how to go in and knowing your position, if you're lawful and legal, how to speak up in court, you know, because I mean, I put together, one heck of a instrument for a lady here not long ago, and I know they panicked on it because, you know, it's like, you know, the point is that they've been trying to figure out me, and I just put I'm nobody.
I'm a bloodline.
Or I put I'm nobody, but then AKA Ed. And that's all I put on the stuff I've been sending to courts.
AKA Ed?
Yeah. I'm nobody, AKA Ed.
No first
you know?
Or no last name, no middle name.
No, nothing, just AKA Ed.
Yeah.
They already know who I am. I ain't ignorant. They ain't ignorant, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting, you know, but the point being is that putting this in, putting your structure together, writing your case, because you went through the structure. You know the time and place when the damage happened to you. You know the circumstances, why it happened. Try to stay away from the motions in it. Just write the facts. What was that? Dragnet. Joe Friday would always say, nothing but the facts, ma'am.
That's right.
You know, you write the facts. You were able to put the inserts in the way they need to be inserted with administrative rules and their rules and regulations. All right, because you're claiming your damage. Then you have their structure right behind it. They can't go against their own administrative rules. They do that. It's like I've been talking to the Oregon State Police up here and secret police in the state of Oregon for the last couple of years. You know, and I'm telling them, if you guys don't start honoring your oath of office now, if your budget gets cuts, remember, you're all out of a job, your retirement's gone, and the bottom line is you can't restart your budget. But if you guys start honoring your oath of servitude and quit imprisoning lawful Americans for traveling or hunting and fishing and stuff, you know, in the state of Oregon, they passed 6 months ago. This year, they started January this year, that all children from the age of 12 to 18 has to get a hunting and fishing license and fish permits. Okay? Folks, wake up. When they're charging kids to feed themselves.
Again, Ed, any law written in violation.
I know. But that only applies to lawful bloodline. I mean, that only applies to registered church members, elected and public servants, and their contractors. Okay? And what is the other one? Elected and public servants, church members, and immigrants.
Yeah.
All right, but see, lawful Americans do not apply to this. This is why it's so apparent knowing your bloodline and filing your bloodline. Now, more people start standing up and proving their bloodline, filing with that. When these agencies have got 30,000 letters in there, they can't dispute it. You know, this is the point, when they can't dispute these things when the information is there.
That's right.
So it's like we got to quit looking like shallow as some people do. A lot of people look shallow instead of looking at the big picture, looking down the road. You know, if you're going to go into, if you're dealing with life, you got to learn how to survive it.
Yep.
Okay, now we're getting into some interesting time because everybody says, end the feds, end the feds. Well, folks, if the feds end tomorrow, how are you going to buy groceries? How are you going to buy gas? How are you going to buy food? Okay? So we need to make sure the Fed works for us. We can transfer that the way it's supposed to be, going back to what even Trump said, going back to the greenback, what John F. Kennedy was doing, to honor the House Resolution 192. Go ahead.
HJR 192.
Right. Okay.
10, Chapter 48, 48 Stat 112 pays for everything. You don't need the Federal Reserve note.
That's right. The only one that are lawful or legally allowed to have Federal Reserve notes, elected public servants, immigration, and registered church members.
Thanks.
Yeah, read the IRS code, folks. See, this is the thing. People don't realize, and I guess it was like yesterday, the lady was very polite with us, too, and we were very polite with her, too. But she kept on bringing this point up, well, us attorneys, we don't know all this stuff. Well, to me, I sort of have a different perspective on it because I've dealt with attorneys and top educators of law schools at the Capitol. And some of these guys really didn't know this shit, but they're like, yeah, don't cross this boundary. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I already crossed it. So it's like, so I can see how some are not getting it, but when they get it, they need to learn how to file the criminal charges on these cases. And this is the one thing that, I suggest that you ask your public pretenders if you have one. Ask them if they're going to file criminal charges on this, and that. Yeah,
we ask her right out if when we are appointed an attorney, the judge is telling us we're incompetent. So how does an incompetent person get sentenced to jail?
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have an answer, did she?
Nope.
So why? And then you ask her, well, then why isn't the attorney going to jail since he's the competent person?
That's right.
She didn't answer that one either.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, I never thought about it that way. It was like, what do you mean? And this is the point that, remember, these are public servants. They're supposed to make a constitutional oath for their employment. And I have that in the paperwork I've filed. I have that in their own administrative rules. That's when everybody keeps going, well, they have the de facto corporation and Constitution of 1871. Yes, exactly. That's how they get paid. It was set up that way so we weren't still in the Civil War fighting everybody. We were setting it up so this way we were sitting there trying to live in peace, per se. We hired the British government under contract to protect the Constitution. That's what it really comes down to. That's why they're de facto of the British government. Corporation of the British government.
So let's understand the job of the Attorney General.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if the Attorney Generals of state and federal, okay, are corporate entities, and they have to represent the corporation, why are we paying them?
Mm-hmm. How come the corporation ain't paying them? How come they're being paid off of our Social Security numbers?
How's come they even have a Social Security number? They're a foreign agent.
Yeah, how come they're allowed to do business in our country?
Where's their they are incorporated, so that means they have to have a charter, bond, business license, and reinsurance policy.
That's right.
I got something to add to that.
Go ahead.
The courthouse told me at one time in Canyon County, Idaho, that they do not have to do taxes on any of the money they receive from our cases because they are a government agency, so they are exempt.
No, they're trying to tell you they're a 501c3.
Sorry, they're a corporation, and the judge gets 25% of the take of the court.
Mm-hmm.
He's hiding that in his retirement fund to avoid corporate taxes. And is that fiat dollar he's accepting as a wage?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I believe we're going to find that falls under federal law. That'd be funding of a court, which is misuse of public funds.
Mm-hmm. Embezzlement, rocking, or extortion.
Hearing. Collusion.
Isn't that RICO?
Yes, federal fraud.
Very much, yeah. The definition of fraud is the deliberate withholding of information to cause one to act to his detriment. So if the judge isn't being honest with you in court, he's just committed fraud.
Extortion.
So that's why they're very upset with me, because I actually called fraud upon the court. Granted, I did not put in writing until recently, but I did call upon that, and they have illegally adopted my child out because of that.
So
correct, and that's when I put the paperwork in that they freaked out on, because I put that in the fraud upon the court in the first instrument.
I'll tell you what you do. You write a letter to your three stooges. Your three congressmen, your representatives, and your congressmen, and you tell them what this court did, committed fraud upon the court. You demand their funding be stopped.
Mm-hmm.
That means they don't get a paycheck.
That means their retirement goes bye-bye.
That means they can no longer...
Not only that, but I'd like to see the caseworker actually lose their job over it.
Exactly. That's what the other point is, but that's the point I'm trying to get you to start writing up the circumstances You know, because we got to try to put that together in a rational point of view. You know, so you could file that with identity theft because they not only did they steal yours, but they stole your children's.
And they got your Social Security number, which is a violation of, Title 42, 408A8.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And they're mad at me about that one, by the way.
Well, I know that. I mean, I heard remember what they told you in court?
That was my legal remedy and recourse was being prosecuted and charged with intimidating a witness.
Well, we're going to be dealing with that one. We got to get that one done tomorrow, but I still like the point where they knew me in court.
Oh, in the state of Oregon, yes, but I have 3 cases, so.
Well, I know that, but like I said, I was amazed that they knew me in court. So it tells me my reputation still precedes me.
Yeah, but the sad part is you were the secondary person. There was somebody else before you mentioned, too.
Well, yeah, no, I'd much rather be the secondary under the first name. Okay? So, you know, at least the judge told you to do what? So I respect that point.
You really do want to get that paperwork going to your 3 stooges.
Yeah.
And demand that their funding be stopped for fraud.
Not only that, but the adoption be, what was the word? Overturned? Since they proved my point by requesting that my husband and I pay back the Title 4E funding that they paid for our child, that there shows that they're double dipping and committing financial fraud. And I'm pretty sure that Miss Shannon Marshall will be listening to this because she follows you guys as well as me.
Well, you got to remember that the judge is running that bond, CUSIP, and commodities fraud scheme against you in court. He's selling your case. That's profiteering from public office.
So far, I have 8 judges, which I have all their oaths of office, plus the Bar Association information showing their bar numbers.
Trust me, when you start taking away their money, they are not going to be happy.
Yeah. Hang on a minute, Dave. Hang on, Melissa. Go ahead, may I?
I just wanted to ask a question. I had a probation officer have me fill out some paperwork, and they demanded to know my Social Security number. David said...
You can now file against him under...
Let her finish what she's saying first, Dave.
All right.
David gave a code. It's Title 42, 48, 08, A is an apple.
No, it's Title 42, 408, round brackets, A, small a, and...
The number 8.
Round brackets, 8.
Yeah, are you on Facebook by any chance?
Yes. This is Jennifer.
Oh, Jennifer, let me go put that on your wall because I have it in the letter I put out for our talk show every week.
Yes.
So let me just go. Just go ahead and put this on your wall right now, so that way you have it.
Okay.
And
good.
Since they are insisting on your Social Security number, you can now nail them under 18 USC at 1001.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to have this up on your wall here in a second. I'm posting you right now, too. This is the Foreign Registration Administration Act, why it was put into place. And see, people don't realize that the Foreign Registration Administration Act was put in place to protect we the people, because that means all elected public servants and immigration and registered church members have to have a concealed license permit. If you're lawful, bloodline, you fall under the Second Amendment. You don't need a concealed license permit or open carry. I carry both, concealed and open carry. But it comes down to is personal responsibility, personal liability. That's once you have that there's no messing with you. And a lot of these guys know it. I've had these guys that try to put me in intimidation, try to get me to fire on them. I came out of my car, my covered wagon one afternoon. I didn't have my 44 on my hip. And the cop's telling me to reach for my gun. He wants to do a draw right there. And it's like, I don't have my gun. I'm looking at him going. And then he's yelling at me going, "Where's your gun? Where's your gun, Ed?" And I'm looking at him going, "What the hell? What do you mean, where's my gun? It ain't working today. Are you done with me?" It's like, it was like, I mean, I've been through this where they've tried to put me on the spot. I've been pulled over by the cops where I've taken out arms and put them all over the roof of my car. And then said, "Hey, now I'm unarmed." Of course, I didn't unload them, and they knew that, but at least they knew that I put it up there. They didn't sit there and harass me and attack me or anything. Because I'm honest with them. I don't have time to play games. They know that, neither do I. But it is knowing who, what, why, and how, and that's your point by your attitude when they have faith and they have knowledge or they get to know who you are. I mean, there are cops in this area that I do respect. There's cops in this area I wouldn't trust with anybody's lives. Period, Anyhow, that's on your wall, Jennifer, right now for the talk show today.
Okay.
And so that has all the other information, including what the 28USC code 1401. That's if you're a national or a citizen, you are an enemy to this country. And that's executive order by FDR.
That's the reason why you do not want to be a sovereign citizen.
Or national.
Why?
Or national.
Mm-hmm.
Why did that story printed up as he was a sovereign citizen?
That was the one thing. I was trying to get a hold of Rich today to ask him. I was shocked when I saw that sovereign citizens who, undo local courts, and I'm like, I was trying to get a hold of him to ask him what the hell that was about because I was shocked when I saw that.
If I may.
Yeah, I'm surprised he allowed that to be printed like that.
It wasn't up to Rich.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mike. The floor is yours.
Sorry. I was finally able to get in. It blocked me for an hour from accessing this call tonight.
Wow.
That's weird.
Rich contacted a guy at the Wenatchee World who called the prosecutor, and then that's when they wrote that article. But it kind of looks like they're labeling him as a sovereign citizen to slant the public. But the public is behind Rich. 40% of the public's already in support of him, so that's kind of cool. But today he had another hearing, and it didn't go so well. So I want to work on the paperwork process some more.
Okay.
And they've separated his case, the federal and state one, where they're ignoring the federal case and still pursuing him in state court.
So, but did he file that in federal court, or he just filed in the state court, both of them?
He filed in federal district court.
Did he move for change of venue?
Yeah, he might have moved to a change of venue to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably do a change of venue to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
Okay.
That takes it out of them. They cannot deny that.
Yeah.
Because they already recused 3 of the judges, so they can already prove that by that they already have a slant in that state.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bias.
That's right.
And that's what happened to me too.
Yeah.
Is we have a bias, and they refuse to change of venue.
Yeah.
I already know in my case that the judges are all paid off by the state. Or I should say working with the state.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm getting ready to file mine with Judge Roberts.
Yeah, I am too. Document unwritten where I put those court cases out that I just read tonight.
Mm-hmm.
16th American Jurisprudence, the Mullery case, and what was the other one? Anyway, those are all going to Roberts.
Yeah, because Roberts, we've already served Roberts every document and every instrument that Dave and I have wrote, or even the ones that I've written or written in the last 8 years. I've always served to Roberts.
Yeah, I'm going to a declaratory judgment against the IRS for $8.9 billion.
Mm-hmm. And I'm getting ready to do that on the city, county, and state because I got to get the rest of this filed. That I believe, Rich, you actually should have a copy of it. So does Mike. You should have a copy of it too. You know, because I'm emailing my case all around.
Is Rich on here?
I don't know if he is or not. I tried to get a hold of him and invite him on, so I just was being hopeful.
Oh.
Probably not. So.
You see, when the IRS, I went to the hearing on taxation in Washington, D.C. in 2002, and all these documents, these 17,000 documents taken from state and federal archives that proved that the 16th Amendment had never been ratified. And that's Larry Beecraft was the lead attorney on that hearing. And so I already knew in 2002 that the 16th was never ratified. So when the IRS started giving me their horse shit, I gave them affidavits in Admiralty, which they absolutely denied and failed to respond, and then they failed to respond to my billing. So the affidavit unrebutted and the billing not satisfied became a true bill and invoice. So since 2005, I've been billing and invoicing these boys every month, putting up with their bullshit, telling them to go to hell and everything else. Okay? It's now $8.9 billion and some change. So I'm now going to the Supreme Court, and I've already gone to Mr. Liu, the Secretary of the Treasury, and demanded payment. So I haven't heard anything back from him almost a month. It was just before Christmas when I filed the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm writing the letter or the case to the Supreme Court demanding a declaratory judgment, along with the writs for execution.
Right, and I'll be doing the same as soon as I get the rest of mine filed this week, because I'm emailing mine to the media, and actually, Mike, I did email my case to Wenatchee News, too, so we'll see what happens. They told me to actually got an email back from them. They make sure that the editor got it, the owner of the paper.
You see, the thing that Mr. Liu obviously overlooked was the very top of that paper I sent him stated an affidavit.
Mm-hmm.
So if he fails to respond to that in 72 hours, that's up. I have a unrebutted affidavit from the Secretary of State on 2 issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is the point filing. Now, Mike,
Secretary of the Treasury, who is, by the way, not really the Secretary of the Treasury. He is the governor of the International Monetary Fund Trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also, too, like I said, the filing I'm putting out, like I said, I'm sending it all over to the media. I've already sent it to the House and Senate Congress. All this stuff that I put together in this identity theft fraud that's going to DMV as well. You know, all the agencies up here already served the Department of Fish and Wildlife. You know, this is the point, is serving these men and women, and now once I get these other ones served, now I'm going to sit there and go to the court and file it. It's done. Now, I've already exhausted by their administrative rules all my administrative remedy by their structure, and I have gone through the entire chain all the way up through the governor. So by their standards of the Superior Court says once you exhaust your administrative remedy, you just write your solution and your remedy, and we have to honor it. So I'm doing that one. We'll see what happens, but it's getting to be interesting. But we are noticing some changes with police departments and stuff around the state. And the one thing that I'm going to be moving on here in my county, I got to talk to some people about that because, see, I'm not a registered voter in that system. But I think I can still start the ballot title on that, not being registered, as my classification is registered with the county clerk. So I have to double-check that with Dana first. But if I could do that, I'm thinking about repealing our jail system. That would piss off a lot of people, wouldn't it?
You know, Ed, there is a very good point. The fraud upon the court pertains to the jails. We can demand our congressmen and senators stop funding jails.
That's right. Because jails are private corporations.
That's right. And
their phone systems in jail are private corporations, too.
And that in itself is embezzlement as far as I'm concerned.
No, it is actual embezzlement, and I got a Supreme Court on it that says it.
It's extortion.
And that came out in 1968, and I forgot how I got that. I'm still trying to find it right now. You know, it was one of those fluke cases that nobody heard about, and the guy who sent it to me was in the legal department and says, I don't know who you are, you don't know me, and that's all it said in the envelope when I got it.
I love those.
Yeah, that was the only thing. It was a typed note, too, so it wasn't handwritten or anything. It was typed.
Yeah, I've been getting all kind of strange phone calls here. No name, no number, call after call after call after call today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not responding to people who do not have a lawfully registered name on the phone.
Oh, yeah, and then I've been getting all these calls from so-called Homeland Security.
Really? I haven't gotten any of them yet.
Oh, I've been getting a lot of those. Of course, I answer them because when I did answer a couple of those, nobody was there.
Yeah.
So I just hang up on them.
I've received these calls, so after they hang up, I dial them back right away, and it says, oh, this is not a working number.
Oh, I get those too.
So if it's not a working number, how did it ever dial in on my phone number?
It just makes you what agency is doing it.
So the next question is, since it's an unlisted name and number, I can report that phone call as homegrown terrorism. They made a threat to me.
Yeah, because you don't know what the interpretation of that call was. You getting this, folks? You got to learn, man. This is the game they wrote, all right? They have to live it, too, so.
Right. So if you get anybody calls you with an unknown name and number, so if it's your friend, you better tell them they better get their name on that number.
Mm-hmm.
If they do not, you can turn that into Homeland Security as a threatening call.
Because you don't know who they are.
That's right.
You know, so.
A threatening call from this person on this date, this time, because it shows up on your phone as a date and day they called you.
Yeah, I find that interesting because I've had 3 phone calls too that I didn't answer. So I'm wondering, like Mike said, if he had problems getting in, I wonder if they were having problems getting in.
Could very well be. My question is, why are they having problems getting in?
Well, we don't know that one. You know.
Blocking. Let's see. That would be.
We know that, Dave, but see, we don't have the evidence to prove it, so we can't speculate.
Well, that's true. Only they, the party who's making the call and can't get in, can file a complaint.
Well, that's true, but then that reflects to us too.
Yeah.
We don't want complaints.
No, we don't. We're not the ones who's blocking the call.
You know. But yeah, no, I was still shocked the way that they were calling Rich a sovereign citizen and suing to undo local courts. He's not suing to undo the courts. He's trying to get the courts to do their job.
He's just trying to get them to expose the victimless crimes and that we're not getting honest goods and services.
Right.
We're getting the bill, but we're not getting the service.
Yeah.
Yeah, explain more on that, Mike. Explain a little bit more so people could get this a little bit more grasp.
Isn't that called honest service fraud?
Yeah, honest goods and services fraud, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know. I don't really have much to say about it right at the moment. It's been kind of a long day dealing with this roof and the storms and
that's true.
Else. So I'm kind of tired.
No problem, no problem.
They appointed a judge pro tem over his case today, so he already knew what to expect about that. If anybody doesn't know, a judge pro tem is just a bar attorney that they appoint to redirect liability away from the court.
Mm-hmm.
In a minute, Bubba.
And that's what they're trying to do, is so that way they don't have to pay him.
It's a huge
damages.
Huge racketeering scheme.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a total scam.
That falls under RICO.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the whole point here, is filing these things under these type of structures of RICO and these stuff. But like I said, it's filing it with the criminal charges, because what I've noticed is when you start filing criminal charges against a lot of these men and women, I watched them resign, leave the state. All of a sudden the cases all of a sudden the cases would disappear out of the computers. They would never exist. And I know they do that too.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people. You keep all your paper record, everything that they send you in mail, you always keep. Because if you don't keep it and all of a sudden it disappears. I mean, I'm trying to get my case back because my house was robbed. And I had my case when they tried to put me in federal prison in 2006 with the mayor of two cities, the mayor, city council, a state representative, a state senator was involved. Many public officials, including my own neighbors, tried to put me in federal prison, said I was faking my disability. So I got the case file with everybody's name, and then all of a sudden, somehow that case file just sort of left my home. And with about 13 other documents that I retained out of the state capitol that they were throwing away historical documents. So, I mean, it's just, I know how these guys operate. I mean, because I had everybody, this congressman, everybody that was involved in that case was there. They made sure I had everything, and now I'm fighting Social Security to get it back, and that's why they're screwing with me right now with my benefits and stuff, because I won't let it go. And I know it, if that makes sense. And I'm not letting it go.
That's what they don't like about us, Ed. We don't let it go.
Mm-hmm. And they are going to be served here again pretty soon. So I want them to deal with that one. I mean, I've had Social Security workers on the phone going, Ed, you're not going to sue me, are you? I'm thinking to myself, why would you even bring that up? I wasn't talking about suing you and you're panicking. I didn't know my reputation got me that well. But I am going after some of them. It's in the paperwork I just filed. So this is going to be interesting. And if we're going to be doing this stuff, file your identity theft. I won't get involved in anything dealing with taxes, 1099 forms, or anything. I won't get involved. I've never been involved. I won't get involved. That's me. But you people have to make your own decisions on those.
May I?
Yes.
So basically, the probation officer that was requesting my Social Security number on the application and the form that I had to sign under duress, they're doing identity theft, and they're basically getting paid through that Social Security number.
Correct.
And by
I just wanted to clarify that.
identity and being paid under Social Security, that is...
Talk to the phone, Dave. We can't hear you.
So the fact that they have used your Social Security number and are profiteering from it is identity theft, and you can sue them in their private, personal, and public capacities.
And that law is on your Facebook wall right now.
Also, it's also on the court, so you can there again write your elected public servants, demand that their funding be pulled, brought upon the court.
Not only that, they're embezzling public funds for their salaries.
That's right.
That's called extortion.
We've got to write a template on this, Ed, so people can just cut, copy, and paste it.
Yeah, you got a point there on that one. Yeah, that'll have to be this weekend's project.
Okay.
So we'll come up with something like that, and we'll bounce it off with Mike with a FOIA on it, too.
Okay.
You know, because, I mean, this is the point that we need to start filing this stuff. And when people are filing their paperwork, you know, if you read it, you believe in that man or woman, what they're writing, they're able to produce the evidence that you have faith in, you can always autograph behind that, because two or more witnesses witnessing a crime, all right, the DA has to take it in. But they don't want people to know what they have to do. But when you know when they have to do this and you start shoving it in their face, you know, you can pull their budget. That's why when I announced when I was running for sheriff in Lincoln County, you know, in 2013, it was interesting. 4.5 hours later, I'm kidnapped, and they tried to kill me over it because I announced that I wasn't going to put up with the fraud. The video's on YouTube. And I told the county commissioners I was coming after them. They know who I am. I already recalled one of them before in the school district for embezzling $30 million and knew it. But the other ones. So, and I'm filing that paperwork right now. Now it's going to go into court. Because, you know, there comes a point where you just have to file it in the superior court. And remember, district courts are still under the Article 3 structure of bullshit. So the only one, like I said, I'm filing all my stuff with Roberts in the Superior Court in Washington, D.C., under the Vatican. And I will be filing this with Star of the Sea as well. So I want to see how they're going to react.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello, Ed. How's it going?
Doing good.
I am still having hell with phones. This one may go dead before the end of the show. My sound, I adjusted it, been working on this computer, and I did something to the sound, and I can't listen to you there. I've missed all the shows till now, but I had a quick question I'd like to run by you.
Okay.
As far as UCC 1-207, you know, that they moved it out of place in the book, and I think they changed it to 1-308. I've heard rumor they moved it to 3-308. I don't know. I haven't been able to find it lately. When you go look for it now, under 1-207 and also 1-308, they say the same thing. It's just a indemnity notice or whatever. But the old one that we went under and everything, that described it was your opt-out from the system should you choose to take it, and it had your claim that you're not a citizen of state or federal.
Mm-hmm.
That one disappeared. I ain't been able to find it. Do you know what happened to it or what's going on?
No, I don't. I haven't checked it, but I know I got both of those in my files.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do too, but when you go to try to find it now, it'll tell you something totally different. It's a half-ass. I mean, it's not even half of that.
I put on the front of my documentation.
Speak to the phone, Dave. We can't hear you.
Put on the front of my documentation, without prejudice, all rights reserved, which refers to 1-207.
Yeah, I know but he's saying it's not on the internet right now. He can't find it, and I see where he might be coming from.
Yeah. They played this nutshell game. They moved it from 1-207 to 1-308, and I think they've shuffled it some more. But right now, man, I'm not finding it on the web. And anybody you talk to about it, they're going to the bullshit that they're posting now, which is just a little indemnity notice thing. It doesn't state you have any rights. It doesn't say anything, dude.
That came from Obama's administration that recorrected that then.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing that all these people fail to understand is that when you use something in a case like 1-207 or 1-308,
right,
grandfathered in on any changes.
Is that right?
That's right. Check the grandfather clause.
You're all right for an old fart, man. You're just all right. I'll tell you what. Well, see, that's what I was thinking. Somebody told me that, but, when people tell you stuff, I've heard there was going to be, big old star falls and nothing ever happened,
Leon and I have put 1-308, 1-207 in our documentations in Admiralty that they never responded to, so that's good as gold.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I'm wondering, see, because, I mean, that's basically my claim to fame. I mean, I hadn't filed a formal, UCC1, which I need to look at again now that I have some more information on it, but I just claimed I basically just claimed that title, it's in there. It was as 2012 when I started using it. It's been changed, I think, somewhere right after 2012.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere downstairs. I have this thing going all the way out. I have to look that up. I'll get it to Ed. He can post it.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, what I did, let me explain. What I did on my UCC1, I filed it. I claimed it, and I own it.
Well, I mean,
and they freaked out when I did it because when I filed it, they said, well, and I said, well, can I own it? And they said, well, we never had anybody do that before, but you're the first, but yes.
Right. Well, see, that was part of what I was wondering because, I mean, I've claimed it for years in public and on writing and, et cetera. Hell, it's on my state ID. I've got 1-207, but I thought, well, when I get ready to update, I probably ought to put 1-207/1-308.
Yeah, I do that on all my instruments.
Well, but then, we've been talking lately to these other guys, and they're they're popping up for this new 1-207 is, which is exactly recoded in 1-308, but it's kind of like an indemnity clause in commerce, and that's it. But I mean, it ain't nothing like what we saw. And
no, I agree with you, but they've been changing this stuff for the last 10 years.
Well, what I was wondering is,
when the big movement started, when the whole thing after Waco, and then the things with the Montana guys,
right?
All right, because when they were educating people were paying attention.
Well, now back to maybe Busey may have a better idea of this one, but so if okay, you're grandfathered in, so I should just go ahead and use 1-207. There isn't any need to do /1308.
No, I do /I308 because I-207 was modified to I-308.
Okay.
So I always put both of them in on everything I do that, and I have that on my mailing too, my printed mailing stuff that I sent out. Yeah. I have that on all rights reserved with that on my printing mail.
Right. Well, now here's the deal. If they modified it when it went into 1308, then I don't know if I'm interested in that. So I'm trying to go.
1308 actually made it stronger.
Oh, yeah, in our favor?
It made it stronger.
Okay, so then it would probably be proper to go in under what I went under, which is 1 dash.
That's why I include them both, so that way it cannot be.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. Go in under 1-207 /308,
right,
and put them both under there now. I would be better off.
So if they modified 308 somewhere in that document, they have to tell you where it went.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to do a nutshell chase down on that, I do not know. Now, I found one interesting deal. It was in a law review. It said on this law review that Section 3-8023 was deleted in UCC draft. But it says that some of it was transferred from 1-207. They said they deleted it. It didn't make it into the draft. So, I don't know.
If I may?
Yeah, it'd make an interesting study to find out what happened to it, and if the same thing is still there, or, we just claim the grandfather side and screw where they've moved it to, one or the other, right?
Right.
If I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'd like you to go ahead and tear apart my thoughts on this. That is, first of all, when I sign something, you got the private side and you got the public side. The only reason I'm signing something is because I'm signing something on behalf of an entity of which I am not that entity. So when I put down a signature, I put down by, just by. And then I go ahead and sign right after the word by, B-Y. And then because that's not, I'm signing for it. I'm not it, okay? And so if I don't use some sort of a qualifier, then basically I'm representing myself as being it, and for that they can come back on me to an extent. It just makes it easier for them to come back on me. So it's by the signature, and then I put without recourse. Now I really don't care what they do with all their laws, which ones they move them here, move them there, do away with them, alter them, change them, modify them. I really don't care. I'm just the authorized representative of that entity, which would be the all capital letters name. And we come to court, it basically winds up, that's your question? Well, that question of yours, is that a question? Judge, that question that you're asking of me, does that pertain to me or does that pertain to the defendant? Because I only signed on behalf of the defendant, of which I also put without recourse. And since it's without recourse, you can't be coming after me in the private for it. I'm not the surety of it. I stated quite plainly that I'm not the surety of it when I put the word by. So go ahead and...
That's a good point.
Chew on that for me, if you would, sir.
Go ahead.
I kind of like that idea.
I do, too. That is an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be? Did you ever square bracket any of the all caps names in your document?
No.
No, he's talking to Matt.
Oh.
Why would I bracket the all caps name?
Because it's a pigment of your imagination.
Yeah, but it's for good use in the public. I mean, that's what I use to operate in the public, and so when it's there, I just try not to get confused between what I am and what it is, and And then the other thing I try to do is not to let them get confused between what it is and that which I am. And I do that by anytime somebody asking me a question, I say, okay, that question that you're asking of me, does that pertain to me, or does that pertain to, either the defendant or that particular entity? And the reason I want to know that question is the very question itself basically requires them to get it through their brain that there's a difference between you and it, and you're not arguing what it is. You're just asking them to tell you, to clarify their question. Who are they talking to? You or that dead entity?
Actually, what they're doing is they're bringing up your birth certificate names. Now, here's a question we've never addressed, Ed. On the certificate of live birth and the birth certificate, aren't those in the public side?
Well, they're supposed to be on the public side.
So then how can they make it on the, the corporate side?
They're doing it because how they're getting away with it is because they're being registered.
If I may?
Go ahead.
When it comes to the birth certificate, most people don't get this, but first the baby is born, and I'm going to say this I know there's people that are on this call that know a lot more than I do. So I'm going to say this for the benefit of perhaps those, if there are any, that know less than I do. And I'll put it like this. First the baby is born, after which the mother fills out an application for live birth. And the reason for that is because the birth has not yet happened. Okay? Because birth is a legal process of international maritime admiralty law. So first the baby is born, and then the mother creates the birth by filling out the application for live birth. Now, the application for live birth is on the private side. And they take the application for live birth, and with it they create that all capital letters name, and it comes back in the form of a birth certificate, and which is on the public side. So the certificate of live birth basically denotes ownership of one's self in the private, and the certificate of and the birth certificate actually denotes existence of the creation of an entity, or cestake vi, or v, however you like to say that, trust in the public, for which it was created you to be the beneficiary thereof. But because nobody ever rebuts that by claiming first ownership of themselves, of that birth certificate entity, then they just continue to presume for the rest of our lives that they own it, because we don't ever rebut it. So we rebut it by claiming ownership of it on a UCC-1 form, but then we don't like to fight with anybody, so what we do is we then go ahead and reassign the ownership of it to the Department of the Treasury on a UCC-3 form. Now anytime they come after that, I don't have any problem with them coming after that, because they're certainly not coming after me, and since it's already been assigned to the Treasury, then the Treasury is all ready to pay the bill because it's been assigned to them. And I got no fight. I don't claim to own me, I don't claim to own the house, own the car, own the shirt that I'm wearing, or even the skin on my bones, which is a cool thing, because now I'm not in a fight with anybody for anything, and it's actually their responsibility under 28USC 95A to protect all of those things as it is their property. So in order for anybody to get at those things, they have to have a greater claim upon them than that which I have made by that UCC-1 and that UCC-3, and I don't know where the heck they're going to get that, because I had possession, which was 9/10, and ownership and title, which was 1/10, before anybody, and did all my reportings and stuff before anybody else came along. So if there's a dispute over it, it's first in time. First in line, first in time.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I have my version of that. I mean, what I do is I'm claiming the UCC1 status, but I haven't done it once, the claim. But now, here's the deal. Once you do UCC, you make that claim, you're out of their jurisdiction, And so as far as claiming the name, I call it the claim the name doctrine, on claiming the birth certificate, authenticating it, and all that. Now, I don't do all that. First of all, authentication just means you agree with it. And
you want liability of it.
I'm not agreeing with the all caps name. See what I'm saying? So I never claim that name, and I don't use it at all. I do exactly the opposite. I try to show the spreadsheet between me and that fellow. That's some straw man, and it's not me. And so I go at it that way. They can have the straw man. They can do what they want with it. It ain't me. It's that simple.
Yep.
And that's been proven over and over. It's already, what do you call it? A premise of law. It's already been challenged many times. So it's easy to defend yourself under that. I'm not under your jurisdiction. I'm UCC1. And that guy ain't me. I separated from that completely.
I agree with that 100%.
And that goes.
The first thing they always do is start a fight. Every stinking time they say, "What's your name? What's your name?" Well, wait a minute. I didn't come here for a fight. I came here to settle the matter. Well, what's your name? Hey, I just told you I didn't come here for a fight. Why do you keep doing that? And that's what. And once you claim that name, well, now you got to dispute because it ain't your name. You didn't create it. They did. It's an all capital letters name. That ain't my name, and I'm not saying it is. But and then again, I'm not defending anything else I'm doing or anything else I'm saying. I'm asking them to answer for everything that they're asking me to answer for, and they can't do it. And that's usually where the matters get settled and move on, supposedly.
Yeah. Well, so that's my deal. It's not me. I ain't that guy. Okay. Now, as far as property and whatever, you go allodial. You file your claim to your deed if it's already registered up there, and you staple it or glue it to it and make it part of that contract. You just file your claim of absolute ownership to it, and you have allodial title. Okay.
Well, that all caps name established your straw man account, your trade name, and your corporation.
And your bank accounts.
And your bank account.
I don't use any of that. Yeah, well, I don't use any of that, period. I don't use the caps name. I don't play with that whatsoever. I don't use it for any benefit, for nothing. I don't claim it. I don't use it. That's not me. It's another guy. I have a allodial filed on my property up here. I think I'm pretty well covered.
Well, Ed and I went to the county coroner and asked him where our death certificates were.
Right.
Where are we buried?
Right. Well, that's what I tell people about the birth certificate and all that. Now, listen, guys, here's an interesting question I just thought of. Okay, you got the birth certificate. It was made in one day. Now, they ship those to the whatever form of the IMF there is, and then turn it into a trust. They give you the capitalized name of the trust. And there, the birth certificate is made. Is there not a date on that bastard deed where it shows a difference between that date and the day you were actually born?
There is on mine.
Well, there should be.
On my certificate of live birth, it shows the date I was born.
Well, what they do is they backdate it. They backdate it so that you can't call them on the deception. But on mine, it does say what date it's created.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, on your live birth, yes, it's dated there. But on the documents they forge out of claiming that your mother gave them permission by signing the papers, which is a fraud because she can't do that for you. That's not a legal contract with you.
Right.
I mean, This stuff's been proven fraud many times. Okay, so, but anyway, hell, at best, if you're an adult and you come up and say, hey, man, wait a minute, I don't want to be under this, notify them, send them a notice and tell them, hey, guess what, guys? I've reached the age of accountability. I'm alive, and I discharge you from being over any of my affairs. Thank you very much. See you later. Discharge them. Now, you're not going to kill the birth certificate. That's another thing I tell everybody. They think they own the birth certificate. You don't ever own that. That's theirs. There's copies at the Vatican. They're all over. You can claim it. I would never claim it. You can't claim the birth certificate without claiming an all-caps name. Actually, I don't think you can claim it without claiming you become a citizen, at least for that short period until afterward they say you correct it and change everything back. But point being, you still can't do it without claiming you're a citizen. You can't, why mess with it at all? It's theirs. You can't, look, those birth certificates, the trust that people are talking about, the trust, that's like your neighbor taking out a life insurance policy on you with an insurance policy company. Now,
see, I claimed mine. I own me. I own mine. That's what freaks them out.
Okay,
because nobody's done it the way I've done it.
I understand your point of view, but
no, I've done it. And it's in court records.
Yeah.
Okay, and see, they never disputed that. They agreed.
Right. Well, I'm not talking about the way you do it. I'm talking about the way all these fly-by-nighters are teaching everybody.
Okay, I got you. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got your point.
Is wrong because, first of all, when you claim that name, you can't dispute I'm not the straw man anymore. Okay? Now, when you come down to you own that, and you're going to change that trust, you can't change that trust. You can make your own trust, but you cannot change that trust. You can dispute it, and which would be a good thing to do, dispute it, put on record you disputed it, and you disputed the birth certificate and whatever, but anyway, there's nothing you can do. You can't do away with the birth certificate, and you cannot do away with that trust that they have in your all-caps name. The only thing you can do is rebut those.
Well, let me tell you what I just filed, my friend.
What I'm saying
I
is,
just filed identity theft on it because I own me, and this is what's going to be freaking them out because I can prove it by their own administrative records.
Yes. Well, I understand your point. I know what you're saying. Okay, but what I'm saying is, the way these people are teaching it, they're teaching folks to go take over that trust from the people that wrote it.
No, they're teaching them basically to go to jail is what they're setting so many people up.
That's what I'm saying. You can't do that. That kind of trust is equal to your neighbor taking out an insurance policy on you, and that's the only damn reason your name is on it, because they took it out on you with an insurance company. You didn't sign that contract. You are not a party to that contract. You didn't pay for the contract, nor did you agree to it and draw up the contract. It is their instrument. It is their thing, and you can't change it. It is there.
I like what both of you are saying. I mean, you're 100% right. It ain't ours. We didn't create it, and it's theirs. However, it was created for our benefit. Otherwise, there's no legitimate purpose for its creation whatsoever. But,
but okay.
Because that's why I own me.
Well, if they created that instrument for their benefit and not ours, well, then that would be fraud on their part. So no, it was
already been proven.
It's been proven. Well, no, it's not. See, that's what I was trying to make, but you kind of interrupted. It's not that their creation of it itself is fraud. There's nothing wrong with it. They created it for our benefit and our use, and we need it to be able to interact within the public. It is our transmitting utility, but it's like Ed said, when they use it without our permission, that's when it's fraud. That's when it becomes, identity theft. That's what I wanted to say.
Right, because see, once it becomes to that point, then there's a liability issue. It's like when they sat there and kidnapped me and held me in jail when a district attorney knows I have heart conditions. I've known a district attorney when he first came to my county, in 1990. Me and him used to, let's just say, had conversations on the beach more than once. And, he was the first guy that taught me how to write a ballot title. So, I mean, it's like, and then all of a sudden when I'm in jail, he knows this stuff, and I'm being kidnapped and held for ransom because I announced I'm running for sheriff, and they had to try to do something to shut me up. I mean, because when I announced I was running for sheriff, too, and everybody panicked, because I was going to go after the bankers. And that includes, a couple corporations in my community that are trying to claim that they own public land, that the timber companies were not able to own any public land, nor was, what is the brothers out there everybody hates?
Bundys the Bundys or?
No, not the Bundys. The brothers, the big corporation guys owns a lot of timberland and all that.
Koch brothers?
Huh?
Koch brothers? Koch?
Yeah, the Koch brothers. I mean, me and him were supposed to have lunch many times because everybody was panicking about me going after them in the mill, and I proved stuff in the mill here in fraud. And but no, they didn't own any timberland. The timber companies never owned timberland. It wasn't until the last 30 years that they claimed they were paying taxes on timberland, which is a lie. They never paid taxes on timberland. They paid taxes for the schools that went for the lumber that they cut.
Didn't they lease that land or?
No, we owned it. We leased the contract to them to cut the wood down.
Oh.
All right, so then they started incorporating the land in a basic lease that was done behind closed doors in the 80s. And then that sort of went to the 90s, and then in 2000, that was the same year they passed the bill that said that any marine fish or marine life or anything you had in your freezer on your land, any edible items, if there was a national disaster, that the state police could take it for the public servants and the public employees.
Yeah.
And which is bullshit because I spoke against the bill, and, it got passed, but with my recommendations in the bill that they couldn't go after we the people on it, the lawful. And everybody kept on asking me, why do you go about the bloodline, Ed? Well, if the bloodline don't exist in this country, we cannot claim our roots. And the roots is that if we have a constitution that gave us lawful freedom, all right, and that includes all race, creeds, and color that goes back, 100 more generations or 100 more years. There's not a racial issue. This is what gets to me. People don't realize racism technically is religion. There is no racism because sticks and stones might break my bones, my names will never hurt me. It's like grow up, children. That's like people saying, I'm a drug and alcoholic. Excuse me, the first time you ever did drugs and alcohol, you didn't have an issue. You were not an issue. You didn't have a happy moment. Then people would do it and when they got depressed. So then all of a sudden they started using depressant and trying to come up with an excuse because they did certain stupid things or they acted certain ways. Now they're trying to make it forgiveness, and everybody says, oh, the Bible will forgive you. Go get your preacher or ask for forgiveness. That's like the same things with the Indians. They got the blankets that poison them, and then they give them a Bible to go pray on for the ones that poison them. To me, it's like, the writing's on the wall. How come people cannot see how simple it is?
Well, and back on point, they created that birth certificate as a transmitting utility for our benefit. Now, it has to be such because for us to create government for our benefit and then to create something for their own benefit to keep.
Wait a minute. We already had government for our benefit. FDR created the birth certificate at $630,000 because of the Bankruptcy Act, because lawful Americans were putting in their gold and silver. Now, the only ones that had to pay the debt was the British subjects, elected and registered church members, and immigration. We, the people, didn't have to pay it. That's the point. So that's why Resolution 192 became effect, because they had to reimburse us for what they stole from us.
Well, that's
and it's in the Bankruptcy Act. It says it.
But
well, it's close. That's a my understanding varies just a little bit different. The reason that they created 192 was because what they did is first they took away the money, and then they created these entities, the birth certificates, but the whole point of 192 was to say that all the birth certificates are part of the same corporate structure, they're part of the same club.
Right, because that was FDR who did that.
And nobody that's in the club can hold another member of the club accountable for a public debt. I kind of like that, because if my
that's right, because I'm not liable for your debt.
If my person somehow goes into debt and I can't seem to fix it, at least they will release it from that, and so thereby relieving me of a problem that I can't fix myself. So that's not such a bad deal. I get to play poker until I'm so far behind I can't catch up, and then if I can't catch up, they'll give me a clean slate in the game again. And that's all because I'm not the chip. I'm the player. So it's not such a bad thing to have it to use, but the two big problems are, number one, we don't seem to know the difference between it and us. We think we're the chip, not the player. We think we're the
Good point.
And the second big problem is like Ed said, they're using it without our permission sometimes, and that causes the second biggest problem. So when it comes to using it, I don't mind using it as long as I know how to use it properly. And I don't care. It's kind of like what Rothschild said. He said, let me control the country's money, and I care not whom they elect. Well, I got another one that's kind of similar to that, and that's I don't care what they use as a system of money or whom they elect or whatever they do, as long as I know how to navigate my way through commerce properly. Hey, I'm cool.
Right.
That's basically what Trump said in his campaign.
It makes it simple, but I'm just a simple-minded guy. So I mean, for now, I'm watching this 192 thing. I hadn't really made a whole lot of hard decisions. I'm a slow learner, and I want to really absorb it and hear everybody's view inside and out and backwards, and then get to understand it before I start messing with something. And I'm just, I don't mess with the 192. I don't mess with the UCC. With a whole lot of the stuff they do, I really don't see any need, because if need arises, well, it's just too easy to shoot all that down in old case law where it's all been proven as fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but frankly, I mean, I think that I don't see as far as adults, when you get back to that deal, you can't change the BC, you can't change the trust, okay, but you can discharge them from having any business over you. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens when you discharge them over you? They're claiming you. Did you not discharge them from your account and being able to use it?
Well, that's why I filed on them on my account. That's why they panicked.
Yeah. So I'm saying the easiest way to deal with the BC and all that and the trust, too, to me, is just to send them notice of discharge and let them know, hey, I'm alive, I'm a living man, made it to the age of accountability. Thank you for your services, no longer needed. See you later.
I got one question about that. Maybe I'm not getting you, but like a few minutes ago, you said you put some stuff into a allodial title. So
yeah,
basically, maybe I'm not thinking about this right, but that birth certificate, that's my transmitting utility. That's how I put things into the public, and that's how I get things out of the public. That's my placeholder in
but a allodial title is different.
Yeah,
maybe that's where I'm messed up, because you're saying you don't use the all capital letters name, yet you got title, and so title implies to me commercial, and commercial's on the public side, so you must be using it, unless, like Ed said, I got something not straight about allodial title. Please explain.
Okay. Well, here's the deal. You don't have to use a BC name. You don't use anything. I have my regular deed, warranty deed, that I received with the property when I concluded the sale. Now, typically, the best thing to do is not register that at all. That's a big mistake. They teach you to go register everything. Well, at the time, I didn't know any better, so I registered it. But your best bet is simply don't register it and put a out-and-out claim of total ownership, add it to that, and call it allodial. Allodial out and out, that's me. All right? And you make it part of the document. You've just acquired allodial land. Now,
right. But a man in the private cannot own something in the public. Only your
No. The land becomes private. It's not public.
Right.
Public land is designated under federal regulations. Remember, the federal government is the British government. Okay, so man is able to own land completely out of the public structure so long as it's public land. Now, if land has been produced public after 1950, that land could be taken away. See, all the lands go back to the original structure of 1899 on the patents that we have with the city structures and everything they filed back then. And if your allodial title falls into that structure, you pass it to your bloodline. That means you're not to sell the land technically. It has to go through your blood. Because if you don't protect your blood, there is no future. And these are forefathers and these guys at BLM, when they started BLM in 1861, they knew this stuff. That's why they put this stuff in administrative rules.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Here's the deal. Okay. Now, let's take my land, for instance. It was in one family. This is in Arkansas, so it's in part of the, Louisiana Purchase. Now, there was a family here that bought it originally from the government way back then. Okay, and it's been in that one family ever since. And I bought it from that family, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure on my deed it doesn't use what the new terminology is. It says you're a tenant. I don't have the word tenant. It says owner, etc. It's a sale between two people.
Right, that's what I have.
Land. So, but anyway, that helped me a lot to begin with. But what I had done, the mistake that I made was I registered it at the courthouse. So now I'm paying tax on that land. But what the answer to that, from my understanding, how you get it off the tax roll, and is you take your claim, you make your allodial claim that it's paid in full and you own it outright, and you make your allodial claim and you take that up there and you tell them, hey, I need to see my land registry. And when you get it, you staple your claim to it or glue onto the document.
Right, you have the clerk file it right there, yes.
And you ask them to file it or refile it right there.
All right, now, I know where I'm at on this. Go ahead, finish. I know where I'm at.
Now you're registered with them as being allodial, and they need to take you off the tax record.
Okay.
Did I miss something?
No, you didn't, but you kind of sunk in for me, and it's a little bit semantical. I mean, what they're saying when they're saying that an individual can actually own land, yeah, that's correct. With the way that they're looking at it, but you still own it in the public. What they're really saying, without saying it, is, sure, you can own the land if you want to call it that. But we're just giving you the ultimate placeholder. We're giving you what's called a lodial title, where nobody else can actually, come in and do anything with it, including us, because we're giving you that type of title. You have absolute ownership. But even still, it's still ownership on the public side. It's not ownership on the private side. They're making it out to sound like it is ownership on the private side.
No, I get what you're saying really on that point. I do get what you're saying on that one. I really do get what you're saying. All right, but see, the bottom line comes down to, all right, all the land technically is public in this structure that was taken from the natives. That's natives. Yes. It's all public anyways. We can build a teepee, do whatever we want, so long as we're basically not really polluting the land. That's chemically whatever. Okay, but see, the way we've developed in this country at this point, because until we get back to living back more native, you try to do that shuffle today, it will just put us in war. And that's the whole point. We're trying to stay out of that. So while we're doing this, if you're passing your land down to your bloodline, where the system has realized this, people in the system, they're getting that because they have to do that. And the other point is the bankers get that too, because if they don't do that, they don't have protection for their own family. Does that, you see where I'm coming from? Everybody here, we know what the circumstances are. We have to protect our bloodline, but we have to make sure our public servants are doing their servitude. And seeing that they're not doing their servitude, either we eliminate their budget, and once their budget is eliminated, they cannot go back and get that budget.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that, they lose it. They're out of a job. They can lose their retirement, too. That's why I tell public servants all the time, honor your oath of servitude. If you honor it and you honor that with your agency, the budgets are public, nobody can dispute or argue with you. Your job is secure then. Your budget's secure. Sure, you might not get a pay increase in your budget for a few years, but you have to deal with your own cost of living. But at that point, at least you still got an income.
Ed, a point I was going to make is, now, a lot of this, I think what the other gentleman, who else am I speaking to on this line, might I add, that's doing this wonderful commentary?
For the purpose of this conversation, you may refer to me as Matt.
Yeah, that fella. Who the heck might you be?
Who might I be? Well,
yeah. That's
what I'm here for. I'm still working on the answer to that question, sir.
That's a good point.
Well, I mean, you go by Bear Wolf, or you got a call name you're going by, anything to give.
I just said Matt what he's dealing with.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think a lot of what he was saying earlier, he's going back under if you do a land patent through or a lodial title through the BLM. But what I'm talking about is we don't need the BLM. You don't have to go through them. You can do it the old lawful way that I just described without them. And, that's part of my whole – I do as much without them as I can, But we're not contracting with the BLM. We ain't signing nothing with the BLM. We are making our claim and making it part of that document of that land as absolute ownership.
Well, and the other point is you are aware that BLM has no legal or lawful authority. You got that reality. Now, BLM, when that was put together, was only to keep land records.
And
okay, that was it. They weren't supposed to have anything else involved but keeping land records only.
Really? I thought they were distributing it also, like the new acquired territory.
No, they couldn't distribute. They already had it all structurally already set up. So they could only keep land records. They couldn't go out and form anything else. They just had to keep land records. Yeah. That's the original structure what Congress put in place. I think it was in I'm thinking 81, but I think it was a little bit earlier, but 81. I got to double check that one. But, I mean, that's all they're supposed to do. Yeah. Okay? And they're not supposed to sit out there and keep us from our public land because deal with the public land out here with the Bundys. That's public land. The federal government gave that because Oregon went after that land in 2006, and they gave that land to us free and clear. So that came back to public land. It has nothing to do with private and all this other crap they're trying to do.
Well, even if they bought it back, the thing is, once they sold it...
They couldn't buy it back. That's the point. You can't buy public land.
Right. Well, they claim to be rebuying some of the old land that they've sold to the public and whatever. But one of the stipulations is when they sell it, they lose absolute control of running any law on it.
Yeah, but the point is they can't sell any of it. That's why they're buying it back, because they got nailed, because they cannot sell. All the cities and counties, your school districts, your city halls, all that stuff, they cannot sell public land. It's not theirs to sell, period.
Right.
They can't sell it. I've already got a case filed in my state and county on this, and they've been panicking on that for 10 years.
Yeah.
They can't do it.
It was my understanding, now I may be wrong here, but it was my understanding that shortly after they formed, they took on the responsibility of selling off, plotting it out and selling off the land of new territories that they had took in.
No, they couldn't do that because when they did the 1940 Administration Act, that secured everything in place at that point with all the contracts and everything. Okay, because that was part of the structure of what they called the democracy crap that we've been with, including Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah.
So they couldn't sell public land. They knew it because they couldn't sell public land and rezone stuff. Because, I've fought things in my own community where they tried to put up a 300 housing unit here in my town for immigration, all in federal funds.
Right.
So I went after them on that, and all of a sudden the land's for sale, and there's no housing going in for immigration in my town anymore.
Good
work. I'm not here to help immigration. I'm here to help my people out.
Right.
That's lawful bloodline Americans. I don't have compassion for immigration because they're invading our home. When it really comes down to it, they're invading our home.
Mm-hmm.
Because all these liberals, they say, let them move in with you. You feed them. You clothe them. Oh, I can't do that, but, I'll pay taxes. Well, why should I pay? I don't want to support them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you do what I'm saying up here at the courthouse, and then, they're willing to take you off the tax roll, and you're not paying tax anymore, then... as long as my county government understands that and goes along with it, I'm fat.
Right, I'm on the same boat because that's what I'm working right now in my own town that I got filed on them again because I filed on them to get me off the tax rolls. And, that's part of the reason why our governor resigned. I filed on them. And so I'm getting ready to file on them again because they haven't taken me off the tax rolls. But I realize there's some paperwork that I think I got it now. Once I fill this, it has to go off the tax rolls. But it's learning how the paperwork works, which I'm learning. And so that's the other point, is doing that so we're all educating each other on this.
Right.
All right. It appears that we've come to an agreement that what was your name, sir, who asked me mine?
I'm Curtis Eccles.
Okay, so if what Curtis said, if we do the processes that Curtis said, then we get the benefits that Ed said, which is they treat our ownership differently. They treat it basically as if it's private ownership, regardless of what they want to call it, public or otherwise. Lordio, they treat it that way. That's great. But still, the point that I want to make, where I think we all three come together, is even though Curtis is right and Ed is right, that I'm right on this one other thing, and is regardless of how they treat us and regardless of what you had to do to get them to treat us that way, they still hold, all property is held in place with the birth certificate name, even though they may treat that our possession of that property differently because we've done the processes that Curtis has said, because they cannot keep, one thing that they are not doing is they're not having people fill out the paperwork for a allodial title, and then all of a sudden, once they've done that, they say, okay, well, let's forget about this piece of land right here. We'll never keep track of it again. No, they're keeping track of it. They're just treating us differently once we've done it the way Curtis has said. They're treating us the way that Ed has said.
Well, I don't care if they track it. I don't care if they keep it in their books forever and whatever, as long as I don't have to pay tax on it, and it says they have no right to step on my property for any reason whatsoever. And I'm treated.
And then you get into the Lieber Code, which is you're correct all the way up to the point where you get into the Lieber Code in time of war and so forth, and what
but
you
war
said,
has
Curtis,
to be
correct.
done by a foreign country against us.
Right.
There's a total difference of that.
Well, that's
I know what you're saying, Ed, but just let me make the point first, and then you can take it there.
Go ahead.
Because basically what they've done is they've made claims that we are in the middle of a war, that they have declared a state of emergency, as they did in Abraham Lincoln, and they never reversed it. So they're saying that we're there, and it could be from a different. I'm not sure if it is or isn't from a different country, because that's who we're at war with, our creditors who are elsewhere, like the Crown, for example. But what it comes down, I lost my train of thought. What it comes down to is it's still everything is recorded under the name. So what we really want to do, what we want to keep getting back to, is not fighting who owns the name, just learn how to use it, and then we don't have to fight it, and then we get settlement on all these things that we're trying to, because what they call an enemy combatant is somebody who's resisting the United States. Well, if we're fighting them for the name or for the property and all that sort of stuff, we qualify for that description of enemy combatant / sovereign citizen. However, if we give it to them and say, hey, we did our stuff right, and so now protect our use of it, or use of fruct, protect our use of fruct, as we've pledged it all to you. All we want is protection. We're not saying we're going to keep it, because we're not going to be here forever. It was here before we got here. It's going to be here after we left. You're just protecting our right to use it. We did our stuff the way you told us to. Now we got no more dispute anymore. But that's not what people are doing. What people are doing is they're trying to claim things like property under a name that they don't own, and that's what they're calling the sovereign citizen thing.
And well, no, to a degree, you're not totally correct there, because, my land is set up so it goes to lawful bloodline. It cannot be commercially exchanged.
I can't speak on that. I don't know anything about that.
I do. I mean, this is what I've been filing. This is what I fought in the Oregon State House and Senate, that I still got them still arguing and fighting with me over it, because nobody's disputed my statements.
True,
and I've even had them admit on the floor, senators and House of Representatives admit on the floor, all right, that property taxes for lawful Americans are voluntary.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a right in our contract that we have our treaty with the state of Oregon, with the British government, okay, with the British government, says that we're entitled to have allodial land that we can own and pass to our bloodline.
Right.
And it's knowing how to do this, and this is the point, educating it, because if we don't protect our bloodline, we have no future on this soil in our country.
Hey, Ed.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I may. In the Arkansas State Constitution, it says the same thing. It says that we have the right to own absolute ownership of allodial land in this state. So, now I want to make a couple points. One is, I've often heard it said, your land is as allodial as you are. That's point number one. Point number two, when you are allodial, when you are not a member of the U.S., you have not claimed a straw man, you've claimed your UCC 1-207 status, and then when I file this, when I put my stamp, my staple on my contract, when I autograph that thing, guess what? It's going to be with the autograph I've been using since 2012, which is in all lowercase. And
that's all I do is everything lowercase pretty much with me.
I'm going to autograph it in all lowercase like I have since 2012, and it will have my claim, UCC1-207, right beside it. So it's clear that who that guy is and what his claim is. Anybody that is not a citizen of the state or the federal government owes no tax to begin with.
Well, that even says in our treaty, too, that we have with the British government, and most states do, that we're not even to pay any taxes.
Right.
That's why I tell people, read your state constitution, because your state constitution has to equal the federal constitution. It cannot alter any of it. And that's what I filed in my court case, by administrative rules and by their own administrative federal court cases.
Right.
You know, so anyhow, I want to get to the point here, because we're going to end the show here pretty soon, because we only got a few minutes left before the recording is going to end. I wanted to get into one thing that I wanted to bring up, dealing with that we still have conflicts with Clovis out there doing her little statement, so people be careful with Clovis. What she's doing. She's saying one thing and doing another, so paying attention to her shows or whatever she's doing, watch out what she's doing to people, you know, and be careful of the people that are giving you advice to get rid of your Social Security number and to get rid of all this stuff. Before you start signing things and get rid of your name and everything else, verify it. Know what you're doing before you do it. And if you're going to take foreign national cards and all that, Trey Gowdy just came out and stated next year they're going to start shipping all foreign nationals out of the country first. So if you give up your rights to this country for your bloodline, you're going to be shipped out.
Yeah. That's
part of the immigration plan that's coming up.
That's a double whammy. If you claim foreign, you're screwed to begin with. and if you claim national, now national has been claimed under the 16th Amendment? 16th.
Before you turned 18.
All nationals.
Before you turned 18.
All nationals. All naturals.
Wait a minute, one at a time, please, guys.
All naturals, all nationals, and all state citizens are claimed as U.S. citizens.
That's right. And not only that, it's an Executive Order 2014, or 2040, I mean.
It doesn't matter what prefix you put before or after that. When you claim any one of those, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how about non-resident U.S. alien?
Well, I'm just a lawful bloodline American on this soil.
Yeah, you're back
That's what
to
I just said.
Well, you're back to alien.
Right.
Non-resident. You know what resident is? Non-resident.
Yes, not a resident.
Okay. And then U.S. alien. What that means is I'm not a resident and I'm alien to the United States, which is nothing more than a corporation that does business out of a foreign nation in the middle of our nation. So non-resident U.S. alien is basically the same thing as what Ed is saying. It's American. But I don't know what lawful American is because the word lawful means contractual, so I don't know what contractual American is because if you're born here, you ain't contracted with anybody to get here other than the Creator.
No. You have to be more than that because it's an article. What is that, Dave? Dave, you there? We didn't lose Dave, did we?
No, I'm here. I had it on.
Okay. You must have dozed off. What was the article about being bloodline in this country?
Article 2.5.
That's right. So it's already been in place. See, these are the things to realize what our bloodline and our structure of this country is to protect our rights. So anyhow, I'm going to give the floor to Dave. I would like to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We'll continue next week. We're very thankful and grateful for your educational sharing, and we'll do this again and join us next week. And get more information out to other people, too, that have emailed me and stuff. So may the Great Spirit walk with you, and we'll see you next week. And, Dave, the floor is you. You close it up, and then we'll have the ending.
Okay. Article 2.5, your constitutional bloodline. Remember it. If you haven't read the Constitution lately, I suggest you do that. Make notes. Ask questions if you're not sure. There's no such thing as a dumb question. So take the time. Do some studying. You want to get into something, go into the congressional record. Begin studying it about 1860. So I, too, would like to thank all of you for joining us tonight. It has been another good session. And we will look forward to seeing you next week. And I have a early morning date to do a radio show tomorrow morning. So we're going to close her out for now. May the Great Spirit guide you. Keep you safe. Till next week, this is Dave saying good night.
Ed says good night.
You're going out in 10 seconds or less, huh?
Yeah, go ahead and say good night or make a quick comment if you're going to say something.
Okay, quick comment is good night. U61-207, it claims that you are a non-citizen state or federal, but that you are not an alien. That's why I like that status. I'm out.
Anybody else want to say one last comment, or we'll just end it?
May I?
Go ahead.
Peace and love, and we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, good night, folks. You have a pleasant evening and travel safe.
Good night.